Hey guys, it's Ch.5. Welcome back to Chris's Batty family. God, man, I've been debating what to read and like when to do it because I don't know how I feel about coming back into the MLP side of things. But like right now, sequel to Your Human and You might read that in the next couple of days. I'm not sure. Chapter 5 of Chris's Batty family, which I'm about to read. Man, just like it's such a good time to come back to it. Also, I'm a little bit upset that somebody beat me to the punch on reading this, and I'm like, ah. But at the same time, like, I read stories. Some of them I can, because, you know, I don't really want to continue it. I'm continuing Headless Not Brainless, Blue Sky, and Herding Instincts. When I get to them, I think I'm going to focus on this story right now. And probably the sequel to Your Human and You, just to get that off my chest, since knowing how Your Human and You played out, that was a story about that story. Like, if I actually waited for those chapters, was 6 years, and I'm just like, bam. I am expecting it to be at least the same or less with the sequel, because you know you expect high expectations from somebody who can give you something so wonderful that you always come back to, and that's what like I've been reading a little bit of it when I was thinking about this. I was like, oh, this is so good. I always love coming back to these chapters. And that's the type of stories I want to keep reading, but it's kind of hard to, you know, enjoy myself doing that. But anyways, guys, I've changed the thumbnails back to the pointy ones at least, back to the style I like. So now everything should have like its own little theme that I have on this channel, which to me personally just makes it stand out, makes it like more my personalized style. So anyways, I've been going on for too long, but I just have to say thanks for 2.2 thousand subscribers. That's actually freaking amazing. I didn't think we'll actually hit 2.2k around the mangas and the visual novels and all that. And I was like, all right, time to come back into this. And I am separating content now from gaming to vlogging. Even though I don't really vlog, it's just more reaction based right now. I'm just spouting on. But I'm actually really hyped to read this. So let's get to it. A cute puncture. Oh, that's a good title. Oh wait, every time I do this, I also get to have background music because it is so annoying reading something without anything in the background for me. Like I used to do it. I used to have like classical music, which I'm gonna put on right now. I used to have classical music back in like where I used to live because there's too much noise and it was like smaller back then. Now there's kids around and I can't really focus on it. And it's almost 11 p.m. here. So when I'm recording this, I'm not sure when this is gonna be out, by the way. So a cute puncture. God, I've sprattled on for too long. I know, 3 minutes. Okay. All right, let's hop right into it. Chris, get back here this instant! The sound of scuffling filled up the kitchen as Blue Moon chased her brother around the island counter. Her hooves skidded across the smooth and well-polished wooden floor. As she scrambled to find traction, her wings flapping in an attempt to keep herself balanced. A smile on his face, Chris dodged about, trying to keep the counter between him and the enraged bat filly. The reason for her anger was clutched firmly in his hand, a large, ripe mango. Chris, that was mine, Blue shouted, her wings flapping in the agitation. She gave a mighty push with her tiny wings to help her jump up into the top of the island countertop so he couldn't keep running around to avoid her. Once she landed, she glared at him, trying to be intimidating, but she was coming off as adorable. Do you know how long I've been waiting for that one to ripen? The smile on Chris's face grew as he slowly brought the fruit up to his lips in a taunting manner. He was having way too much fun messing with his smallest sibling. Blue froze, her eyes widening before they narrowed dangerously. Chris, she growled, baring her tiny adorable fangs. Don't you dare. Not breaking eye contact with her, he opened his mouth wide as he inched the fruit closer and closer to his face. I'm warning you, Blue growled, flashing her fangs as her wings flared up, ready to pounce. Ignoring her, he placed the mango to his lips and took a massive bite. Delicious juices squirting out and dripping down from the edges of his mouth. You're so dead, Blue shouted with a loud shriek before throwing herself off the counter, colliding into Chris's chest with surprising force and accuracy. Chris let out a startled yelp as the pair tumbled backward, taken aback by how fast the little filly was. She clung gamely on as they fell to the ground, hitting the floor with a loud thud. Blue quickly recovered and reached out, desperately trying to pry the fruit from his grasp, but he was ready for her. He quickly rolled over to try and throw the small filly off, but it was of no use. Anticipating the move, Blue clung onto him as they rolled across the floor in a tangle of limbs, muffled curses, and ease following after them as they both struggled with the fruit, neither of them gaining an advantage over the other in their struggle. Both Moondrop and Dawn sat at the kitchen table watching the foolish scene play out before them with varying emotions as they ate their breakfast. Moondrop's face held amusement even as she buried her muzzle in a bowl of sugary apple flakes and milk. Her glasses were flicked over with a white substance, occasionally using the sleeve of her pink sweater to clean them. Dawn, on the other hoof, looked on with amused concern as she nibbled daintily on a small pear. Her ears folded back with each thunk and grunt of pain that came from the tussling pair, her eyes never leaving Chris in particular. She was never stranger to her siblings roughhousing around, but now that things between them were closer, she couldn't help but feel worried that something unspeakable would happen to one of her new mates. Alright, you guys are heard now. Isn't that interesting? She didn't know what she would do with herself if anything serious happened to Chris. She knew from past experiences that it was difficult to find him proper treatment since he was foreign to this world. The horrific memory of the time when he broke his arm came back to her, reminding her of how much pain he was in and how long it took them just to pop his bones back into place and give him a proper splint. She didn't like seeing him in pain, and it scared her to think something similar could happen if he continued to wrestle with Blue. It was difficult for her to do, but she did her best to not cry out for them to stop before the unthinkable happened. Sam, like, are you the oldest? I'm not sure who's the oldest, but I think it makes sense just to diffuse the situation before anything happens. What are you doing, Dawn? Like, you seem to have mature. Like, I know you're worried about Chris since he's your new mate. It's interesting. Oh god, I love it. Dawn shook her head, knowing she was being overprotective. Now that the love of her life was finally aware of her feelings and was even willing to try things with her, she did her best to stay focused on her pair and let her new herdmates have their fun. Faint sunlight streamed in through the kitchen window, the light tinted green from the dense foliage it passed through. It was late in the morning. All four of them having slept in due to yesterday's activities. The early birds they were, Blue and Moondrop looked relatively decent, their manes combed and coats brushed. It was clear that they had showered after waking up, taking time to work on their appearances. Dawn was a different story. She had a case of bedhead, strands of her mane sticking out at odd angles, and her coat was unbrushed, though it was hard to tell underneath. The clothing she had on, it was a different outfit from yesterday, and this one composed of a simple black shirt that was a few sizes too big for her. The words Green Hate displayed upon the front in faded white letters, as well as a white hoof holding up a red apple that appeared to be dripping juice. She also had a pair of black and purple striped socks on her hind legs. Alright, you're like a gothic pony, right? I don't remember their characteristics. I know Moondrop is like the anime loving one. And Blue Moon, the ones that is fighting with Chris right now, is basically Octavia, but in bat form, I think, right? And we're gonna meet two more, I think, in this chapter? I'm not sure. The clothing might have been standard for her, but much to the shock of her siblings when she had first entered the kitchen, her face bore no makeup whatsoever. The thick eyeliner that usually covered her eyelashes was absent, as was the thick grey makeup that would cover her face. Instead, a plethora of dark grey freckles adorned her cheeks and muzzles. Yeah, because Chris, like, told you he didn't care, right? That's why you didn't put makeup, because Chris likes you like that. She had been really self-conscious about them, not looking at any of her siblings in the eye until Chris surprised her, almost without any warning. He had suddenly pulled her into a hug, lifting her off her hooves and into the air as he pressed her firmly to his chest. Then, without skipping a beat, he whispered to her ear that she was beautiful before giving her a deep and loving kiss on the lips. He wasn't just a peck either. He let his lips linger on hers, holding her firmly both with gentle hands as they embraced each other. His actions were something that she wasn't expecting, but it helped to take her mind off of her exposed freckles. The gesture felt real and genuine to her, and it seemed like he was actually willing to give this shirt thing a real try, which helped her confidence go even more. Now, instead of worrying about her embarrassing splash, she sat at the table, a large goofy grin on her muzzle that she couldn't hide. My boy literally just told you that you look amazing. I love it. I love it. I have no words to that. I love it. Sadly, though, her once bright and carefree smile had faded, replaced instead by a look of worry as she stared down at the collapsed forms of her brother and sister. He lay there, breathing heavily as Blue straddled his chest. The mingle that we're fighting over was off to the side, having been squashed by the pair at some point during the struggle. Oh, by the way, if you're new here, Chris is the step sibling to all these bat ponies, and he's gonna get it on with all of them, I think. Probably even the mother too. Who knows? I don't know that part yet, but I'm expecting so. Anyways, let's continue. Blue stared down at the pile of mush with a deep scowl, her cheeks puffed up with anger. That was my mango, she grunted through gritted teeth. I called dibs on that one when Mom came back from the market 2 days ago, you jerk. Yeah, well, I didn't see your name on it, plus I don't know what you were whining about, Chris muttered around a mouthful of mango as he pushed himself into a seat of position, causing Blue to slid into his lap. He chewed the sample he got a few times before talking with his mouth full again. It's not even that great. It wasn't ripe enough. Blue glanced around and glanced down at her destroyed fruit one last time with a sorrowful look before her expression hardened. She turned her head back, glaring up at Chris as he continued to chew. What? Chris asked, eyeing her nervously. You're not that upset, are you? Come on, I was just... Ugh. Leaping forward suddenly, Blue grabbed his head in her hooves and darted her head forward, smashing her lips against his. I know what she's trying to do. She's trying to get that kiss, and she's trying to get the flavor of the mango. Like, Chris allowed a surprised yelp, the noise muffled by his sister's muzzle being pressed into his mouth. He tried to jerk his head back, but Blue's grip on him only tightened, keeping his head locked in place. A shiver ran down his spine as he felt her long tongue wiggling its way into his mouth, her wet muzzle colliding with it as it moved around, filling over every nook and cranny it could reach. He could feel her urgently darting around, scooping her up small pieces of the chewed-up mango still in his mouth as she moaned softly in delight. Yeah. You're not getting away with this one, especially when you're in this relationship now. You probably messed up when you got involved with your sisters. Too bad, Chris. Get used to it. He had to resist the urge to gag when she got a little too overconfident in her search, getting extremely intimate with his tonsils. Whoa, Moondrop cheered as both she and Dawn watched them kiss with wide eyes. Go, Mooney, show him how a true lover gets the mango back from her stallion. Yes, Moondrop is the comedic one. I love her. Dawn was speechless, but was starting to get a little turned on by the sight, much to her surprise. Blue hummed softly at the pleasing mixtures of flavors in her mouth, holding their embrace a few more seconds before separating the lips with a loud smack. A thin line of spit and mango juice connected them for a moment before breaking away. She practically purred as she licked her lips in victory, sampling the bits of chewed up mango she had pulled from Chris's mouth. She took a small pause to get the full scope of flavors before locking her eyes with her brother. You know, I think you were right, Blue taunted in a sultry voice, batting her eyelashes at him. That mango wasn't quite ready to be eaten, but I think your flavor helped to make it so much more delicious. Chris sat there staring at the little filly in shock, his hand lightly touching a small drop of their combined saliva and mango juice that dripped from the corner of his mouth, baffled by her determination. Baffled. He's so baffled by this. Did you just, he tried to say as he collected himself, did you just shove your tongue down my throat? Well, it's not like you gave me much of a choice. I have to get my mango back. I love how I love her so much. Blue replied hotly, giving him a sly smile. I wasn't going to let you have it all, but after tasting that, I think I might have discovered a new way to enjoy fruits in the morning. Oh, this is not gonna be well. You're nuts. You know that. Chris said as he tried to scowl, but the smile on his lips betrayed him. Damn you. You're nuts. Don't act like you didn't enjoy that, she countered, licking her fangs and lips slowly for him in a flirtatious manner. I felt you pushing back against me during that kiss. No comment, Chris said, trying to sound angry but felt as a bright blush appeared on his cheeks. Still, you didn't have to jam your tongue all the way down my throat. Damn. I don't know how I feel about that. Don't act like that didn't excite you, Blue said with a teasing giggle before her voice dropped into a purr as she gave him a little look. Besides, others appear to have enjoyed the show too. Chris blinked a few times, giving her a confused look before glancing at her over at his other siblings. Both of them were staring with wide eyes, dark blushes across their faces, and wings stiff by their sides. I wouldn't mind that kind of breakfast too, Moondrop breathed huskily, to which Dawn mindlessly agreed with a nod. Aw, I forgot she says this word. Udi-chan, can you eat a mango for me like that next? I forgot. The cringe in me, the cringe in me. It's just like, not gonna let that happen. A faint blush touched Chris's cheeks as he gave Moondrop a bewildered look. He wasn't quite sure how to answer her question. Seeing his blush and confusion, Blue's smirk grew as she settled farther into his lap. She wasn't going to miss the opportunity to have a little more fun with her easily flustered brother. What's the matter, Chris? She asked in a husky whisper, grabbing his attention again. She started to slowly lean against him, her lips inching closer to his. Don't you like our kisses? Don't you like how soft and delicate our kissable lips are? With each word, she drew closer until their mouths were barely an inch apart. He could feel her hot breath on his face, her lips so achingly close. Chris's eyes began to slowly close as he waited at contact with eager anticipation, leaning closer and closer until finally... Oh my gosh! Blue shouted suddenly, sitting up quickly enough to knock Chris backwards onto the floor. He grunted as she stood up and dug her hooves into his chest, twisting about to stare at the clock on the wall in horror. I can't believe I almost forgot I'm going to be late for rehearsal. Wings flaring wide, she leapt off her brother and streaked off out of the kitchen and down the basement stairs. The sound of a loud thunk could be heard for a few moments before she was upstairs again. Her Shello's case strapped her back. I'll be back sometime after noon to finish what we started, she shouted in a hurry as she ran up and placed a quick peck on Chris's cheek before continuing. Don't wait up, bye. Before anyone could react, she ran for the door, and with a creak and a bang, she was gone. Wow, she was in a hurry, Dawn said disappointedly. She was actually really enjoying the scene that had been unfolding before her. That filly is always in a rush, I swear, Moondrop said with a smile and a shake of her head before looking up at the clock as well. Everybody busy today? Is that what's going on? Like, I don't know your lives. I know, like I just mentioned it. Blue, violinist, Moondrop, anime person, / probably a manga artist. Dawn, I don't even know what Dawn does. Dawn is just a goth right now to me. I should probably get going too, she said with stifling a giggle as she rose from the table. She picked up her bowl with her wings before making her way to the sink. I promised a bunch of my friends we would hang out today. We're going to see that new Dawn Star movie. What? Chris asked, sounding somewhat surprised and almost sad as he watched Moondrop walk past him. You're leaving too? Yeah, I need to get I need to get going to work as well, Dawn sighed. And you too? Chris asked with a frown. You guys are all leaving me today? Ah, my boy's sad. My boy's lonely. Sorry, Uni-chan. I don't know how I feel about saying that. Moondrop said as she dropped her bowl into the sink and turned back. I would have loved to stay and hang with you. Trust me, I would. She took a moment to close her eyes and shiver, no doubt letting one of her many more perverse fantasies run through her head before looking back to him. But sadly, I made plans with my friends a while ago, and I can't just ditch them. Excuse me, you can. I'm gonna be honest, you can. I have many friends ditch me before. I literally went to the cinema and watched Nightmare at the Museum 3 by myself, and I cried, and it was so emotional. I was like, I'm a lonely little bitch. And that's how I felt that day. Yeah, I really wish I could stay too. I really do, Dawn said, looking down at her half-eaten pear with sorrow. But I'm covering Starshine's shift today. I told her I would, although this is my last shift for the rest of the week, so we can hang out a lot more then. She started to rise as well, but stopped when Chris called out to her. Dawn, wait, he said, which caused her to stop and look at him. What? She replied with a curious look. I'm serious, I really can't skip out of work today. This story's going to be swamped and Starshine would kill me. No, it's not that, Chris said as he got to his feet, dusting off his pants, unsure before looking back at her with a serious expression. What have you had to eat this morning? She cocked her head curiously at his question. Her ears played back in confusion. A pear? Chris looked back to the table where her half-eaten fruit still late. You didn't even finish it? Oh yeah, I forgot. She was malnourished, right? Because apparently she was getting skinny for him. But he was like, nah. Like, I think he's trying to fatten her up a bit so she'll be normal, at least. So, Dawn asked, still not sure where he was going with this. Well, what else did you eat? He asked as he looked back to her, keeping in his more serious expression. That's it? Dawn answered blinkily up at him. Why? Dawn, Chris said, shaking his head. You need to have more for breakfast than just a pear. What? But my weight. Dawn began to protest, only for Chris to walk up to her and place a finger on the lips. It's fine, he finished for her. Come on, Dawn, we talked about this last night. If anything, you're underweight right now, and that's not healthy. You need to have something else to eat, like an apple, or some toast, or banana. Moondrop suddenly chimed in with excitement from behind them. With a quick and eager flap, she darted across the kitchen and grabbed a fresh banana from the fruit basket, gripping it with a thumb of her wing. With a flourish, she held the elongated fruit up to her mouth as she used her other wing to throw away its peel. Just watch me, Dawn. You can even make it fun like this. Why do I feel like you're gonna make this sexual? Moondrop. Both Chris and Dawn gave each other auto looks before turning to watch her weeb of a sister slowly bring the naked banana up to her lips. Moondrop let her eyelids fall as she tilted her head back and slowly began to slide the whole banana into her mouth. Once the tip had passed her fangs, her lips locked down, trapping the treat inside her maw. A soft hum of delight reverberated from her throat as she continued to push the fruit into her mouth, letting it slowly sliding more and more. Her humming grew more impassioned as the food continued to vanish into her awaiting maw, a bulge appearing in her throat. The last of the banana went in and she closed her mouth, proudly displaying the large bulge that ran down the length of her throat. She held it for several seconds before swallowing, sending the banana down into her stomach. An almost satisfied sigh escaped her lips as her eyes fluttered open. See, she giggled, licking her lips as she looked back at her students. It's fast and easy, so if you're on the go, you can just slide it down, and it's a lot of fun to do. Did you just, Dawn stammered, giving her a music. Did you just swallow that whole? Why would you do that? She just swallowed a banana whole. And I feel like Dawn and Chris were just watching Roar. I don't know how I feel about that. I told you why, because it's fast and fun. Moondrop countered with a happy bounce and a smirk. Besides, Chris really seems to have liked it. She motioned towards him with a hoof, and Dawn's eyes followed. You need to stop, alright? My boy here accepted all of 3 of you, but he doesn't want to be caught up in this nonsense that's going on right now. Chris was standing there, his eyes wide and mouth agape, but it wasn't his expression that caught her attention. It was the surprisingly large tent he was pitching in his pants. Upon seeing this, a large blush spread across Dawn's face and her eyes widened. "Oh, I gotta get going," Moondrop chirped, prancing out of the kitchen. "If anyone couldn't ask, I'll be back in time for dinner, okay?" She sauntered off, glancing back over her shoulders as she went, her hips swaying back and forth in an exaggerated manner for Chris, probably. Chris watched her go, unable to take his eyes off her rump until she was out of sight, running a hand through his hair. He exhaled slowly, trying to get his blood to flow to a different part of his body. He almost had it under control when a soft choking sound came from behind him. I like how I think there's 3 or 4 more other ponies we haven't met in this household yet. And everybody that's got close to Chris, you know, our mares, or his mares now, are just all being really open about this. Glancing over his shoulder, his eyes widened upon seeing Dawn attempted to insert a freshly peeled banana into her maw, similar to what Moondrop did. However, unlike her younger sister, she was only able to get about half the banana down her throat before her gag reflexes kicked in. Tears streamed down her face as she hacked and coughed around the intruding fruit. "Dawn!" Chris said with alarm, stepping forward and quickly batting her foreleg down so the food came out of her mouth. He patted her back as she coughed a few times, trying to get her breath back. "Don't choke yourself. You're not seriously trying to eat a banana like Moondrop did, are you?" "Damn it," Dawn spurted through her cough, speaking softly. "How does she do that?" "What are you trying to do?" Chris asked in confusion as he rubbed her back. "This is not a good way to eat a banana at all." Aw, he just wants some attention. I love it. It's adorable, but don't mess with your own health. I think that's the story. Dawn froze up at the question, letting her forelegs with the banana fall away from her as she glanced down at it sadly. "I was just trying to," she mumbled. Well, I mean, I saw you got excited when you were watching her, and what?" Chris said in confusion. It really hit him. "Oh, you mean when she only nodded." "Yeah, come on, Chris, you know." "Oh, well, I mean, you don't have to do stuff like that." Wait. She only nodded. Okay, let me say. "Oh, well, I mean," Chris started to say with a blush while he rubbed the back of his head awkwardly. "You don't have to do stuff like that. I think you're sexy enough as it is." Dawn smiled slightly at that. Even if she thought he was only saying that to make her feel better, she still enjoyed the compliment. "Yeah, I don't know. I guess I know it's dumb, but I kind of would like to be able to do that, for you." "What?" Chris muttered, blinking dumbly as he stared down at his blushing sister. You really want to try something like that for me?" Dawn only responded with a slight nod and a smile, not making direct eye contact with him. "Aw, now you're shy about it? Aw, come on." Well, I appreciate that, but just eat the fruit normally for now, okay?" He murmured softly, patting her back once more, unsure what else to say. "We can work on that other stuff later if you really want." Fam, I just realized that Moondrop had his whole cock inside of her before, so I'm assuming she's been practicing this. So now that I'm getting more context into that, I was like, what? Oh, damn it. Anyways, back to this. "You mean it?" Dawn asked with excitement in her voice. She looked up at him before catching herself coughing awkwardly and glancing away. I mean, yeah, whatever. I guess that would be pretty cool if we could do that later." "Yeah, I would," Chris replied awkwardly as he stood up. "But let's save it for later. Tonight, maybe?" Dawn nodded as she tried to play it cool, but the blush on her gray, freckled cheeks betrayed her, doing as he asked, but only because he requested it. She started to nibble on the tip of the banana gingerly as she lipped the fruit. She glanced up at Chris, only to perk upon seeing him eyeing her with a small blush on his face. She paused for a moment before, with a smirk, she continued administrations. Now this was something she could do. "Are you gonna eat it slowly? Like you're giving it a BJ?" Now that's the question I want answered. Glancing at him out of the corner of her eye, she began to slow down, licking and nibbling at the fruit, running her pierced tongue up and down the banana's length. She made an effort to moan softly, knowing it would only stir him up even more. Slipping the tip of the fruit into her mouth, she essentially began to slide it through her lips, letting out a low, delighted hum as she did so. She paused when it was about halfway gone and took a deep breath, preparing herself. Chris watched with bated breath, fighting for the first time in his life. He was jealous of a banana. First timer? Alright. Jealous of a banana, god. That's stupid, but I love it. Dawn pulled her lips off the fruit just enough to allow her tongue to slip out and drag along the bottom. When it was properly lubricated, she began to slide it further into her mouth, only for the grandfather clock in the next room to begin chiming out the hour. "Yeah, you have work." And inhaling sharply, Dawn's eyes widened in shock. Throwing all decorum out the window, she jumped down on the banana, chewing it all up hurriedly as she raced out of the kitchen. "Oh fuck, I'm gonna be late for work." As the sound of her galloping up the stairs faded, Chris stood alone in the kitchen, staring blankly at the spot where Dawn had been moments before. Slowly, he crossed his legs and placed a hand over his junk in a defensive manner, wishing that he could get the image of Don's fangs tearing the banana shaft apart so easily out of his head. A phantom pain ran up from his crotch as the image of the innocent food getting ripped into so easily replayed over and over in his mind. He made a mental note to never piss off any of his sisters ever again. Those Batty fangs were adorable at times, but they could do some serious damage. I'm pretty sure they know how to handle it. Also, I'm not sure if they can retract them back into their... Yeah, I'm not sure if they can retract them back into this. The sound of Dawn thundering down the stairs broke him out of his thoughts. He turned to see her dressed in their usual Gothic attire, still galloping through the house. "I'll see you at dinner, Chris," she shouted as she threw open the front door. With an echoing thud, the door closed behind her, and Chris was truly alone. "Batty Maris," he muttered under his breath, before turning to survey the mess they had left in the kitchen. And "Hey, don't you have work, Chris?" he sighed deeply, figuring he was the only one left in the house, so it was his duty to clean up before their mother came home. After stretching for a moment, he moved about the room and started cleaning up the breakfast. He picked up and washed all the dishes by hand before putting them all away. It seemed he was always the designated dishwasher in the family, but that was kind of expected since he was the only one with opposable thumbs, which let him do it a lot faster than any of his siblings. Yeah, I was about to comment on that. Like, you can do it faster, probably, but I was gonna say, like, you can probably get most of the rough stuff out. Once that was done, he was quickly wiped down the counter, floor. He quickly wiped down the counter and floor, making sure to throw the ruined mango out the window into Penumbra's small garden in the side yard before heading up the stairs to his room. Penumbra's. Speaking of which, small garden. Why are you depositing that there though? Why that? Or why there? As he walked down the dimly lit halls, he hummed softly to himself, his mind already running over what he still needed to do with the metalworking project he started the other day. He didn't get a chance to work on them yesterday, but that didn't worry him too much. It was a fairly simple project, especially since the main structure of each piece was already finished. He was basically on detail work at this point before he added color to their armor and bodies. I forgot you got a hobby. Not sure about work though. Damn, I need to get another water bottle. Let me just get them ready before I continue. Ah, shoot, I keep forgetting these headsets don't have long cables. Shoot. Ow. So God, I'm gonna end up breaking these headsets again. I'm gonna be so mad. Alright. He was suddenly pulled from his thoughts by a soft whisper coming from behind him. It was so faint that he wasn't even sure that he actually heard anything at all. But it still sent chills down his spine. It couldn't have been the wind, and he was positive he was alone in the house. As far as he knew, all his siblings were out and about, except for Penumbra, who was most likely passed out in her room still. Even if, for whatever reason, she was up, he would have known about it. It's impossible for her with her stature to get around without somebody being alerted to her presence. He thought he might have just been hearing things, but still he stopped and glanced over his shoulder, calling out as he did so, "Hello?" An answer came, but he was still sure he heard something. Shaking his shoulders, he turned back, only to hear the same whisper yet again. "Hello?" Chris called as he whipped around, completely seeing an empty hall behind him. "Is somebody there?" Again, no answer came, but he was sure he had definitely heard something that time. In fact, it seemed to be coming from down the hall. Although it could have just been his ears playing tricks on him, he held his breath for a moment, listening intently, but nothing happened. Maybe Blue left her window open in the room again, he muttered to himself, casting one last glance down the hallway, and still seeing nothing. He turned and continued towards his room, albeit at a faster pace than before. Even so often, he cast a quick look over his shoulder, a feeling of paranoia sitting over him. For whatever reason, the house suddenly had a dark, creepy vibe about it. Yeah, you're alone. Heck, I'm always alone myself, but fam, I don't live at that big of a house. It's like a mansion for you, so that's probably creepier. Imagine living in a mansion, but you're alone at night and there's noises. That is just freaky, alright? That's how movies get you. Scary movies, to be exact. Alright, or horror. Alright, let me get back into this. Scurrying up into his room, he quickly yanked the ladder up and lashed his door shut. Once it was secure, he breathed a sigh of relief, feeling safe once more. For added assurance, he took a moment and stood in the center of his room, listening intently for anything out of the ordinary. Upon hearing nothing, he smiled and laughed at himself, thinking he was losing his mind. "Way to jump at nothing, Chris," he chuckled. While I was sure that Equestria had some pretty dangerous creatures in it, there was nothing in around hollow shades that would sneak into someone's house, or at least nothing that he had heard of yet. The type of thing was normally reserved for towns around the Everfree Forest. Ah, makes sense. Giving his head one last shake, he turned to his desk. Alright, let's get started, shall we? Taking his feet, he glanced over the assembled miniature ponies in armor. There were 32 in total, 16 Earth Pony stallions bearing shields, 4 Earth Pony mares wielding giant hammers, 4 Pegasi with battle axes in their hooves, 4 unicorns with their heads held high, and 4 alicorns. Running his eyes over the pieces, he began to sort them evenly into separate piles on either side of the desk. Once divided, he grasped a scrap piece of paper and a charcoal stick and began sketching out basic poses and positions for the models. He was just finishing up the third sketch when he paused, and a feeling beginning to well up in his chest. As he ceased the soft scratching of the charcoal stick, something didn't seem right. It felt like... Just then, all the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. As a chill ran down his spine, he suddenly had the urge to turn around, but a little voice in the back of his head was telling him not to. Swallowing thickly, he stilled himself before twisting about in his chair, ready to see someone or something directly behind him. But there was nothing. The room was the same as it had been, not a thing out of place. The trapdoor was still pulled up and latched, and both his windows were closed. Still, he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling, and hesitantly he returned to his work. That was weird, he muttered as he leaned his head down, going back to sketching out the fourth configuration for his project. Not a second later, a warm breath washed over the back of his neck, followed by 2 soft whispers in both of his ears at the same time. 2 soft whispers? What are they planning? Good morning, brother. Okay, it's like this. Good morning, brother. It's more like that. But I don't like doing that most often. With a startled yelp, Chris jumped up and whirled around, almost knocking his table over and sending his miniatures flying about the room in the process. His heart was pounding out of his chest and threatening to burst free, but upon seeing who it was that spooked him, he slowly started to calm down as anger began to rise within him. Nocturne, evening, what in the name of the unholy sun are you two doing? The 2 identical Bat Pony mares smiled mischievously at him as they hung from the rafters of his room by their tails. His older sisters of 3 years, Nocturne Light and Evening Serenade. The twins tittered softly to themselves, their laughter sounding like a dry hiss as they watched him with their bright green eyes. They were perfectly identical to one another, both bearing dark purplish gray coats and long wispy white manes. The only way to tell the twins apart was by their cutie marks. Nocturne had a ghastly orb of light upon her flank, while Evening's rump bore a treble clef. Both cutie marks glowed an eerie greenish yellow in the half-light of his room. A little jumpy this morning, aren't we, little brother? Nocturne said smoothly, her voice soft and gentle. It was almost hypnotic, the way she practically purred the words. He certainly is, Nocty. Evening agreed, her wings twitched, causing her to sway back and forth from her upside-down position. You can hear his heart pounding from here. Alright, these 2 are the creepy twins from The Shining. I don't care what anyone says, these 2 are the creepy twins from The Shining, alright? I don't know what's going on with them, but that's the vibe I'm getting here, and it's probably bad that he thought he was alone, but these 2 showed up, but no, they're family, so nothing's gonna happen, but still. It's freaking creepy though. I would be so mad. Like, he's frustrated as heck right now. I would be mad. I would just throw them out the window. Like, don't come back to me until you apologize. Chris's brow furrowed slightly as he gritted his teeth. Having calmed down from his scare yet, he's still upset about it. This wasn't the first time the twins had spooked him. Okay. Like, seemed to make it a habit of popping up out of nowhere whenever he least expected it to. How did you 2 get in my room? How did you 2 even get in my room? Chris asked as he slowly stood back up on a shaky leg. It's the same way you did, Nocturne hummed, motioning towards the closed hatch that led from his room with we were right behind you the whole time, but you just ignored us, Evening added innocently. Like you always do. Oh, that hurts the heartstrings, don't say that! Nocturne finished, sounding hurt. Both sisters sighed dramatically and shook their heads in unison, although Chris could still see hints of smiles upon their muzzles. Don't say that, come on, don't say that. I feel like you're intentionally trying to hide your presences, so shut up, don't you dare say that. Chris groaned internally and rolled his eyes at the pair. He knew the twins loved to mess with him like this. He could have said something instead of sneaking around, he said, throwing his arms in the air. Sneaking, Nocturne placed a hoof on her chest and mocked shock. Dear little brother, how could you accuse us of such a thing? We never sneak, my butt. Evening added a look of shock and a hurt in her eyes. It's not our fault that no pony in this house seems to notice us when we enter a room. That's messed up, dog. But still, Chris sighed heavily, hanging his head as he rubbed his eyes with his thumb and his finger. The soft cackling from his sisters grew slightly louder, despite them trying to muffle it with their hooves over their lips. Yeah, right, whatever, he huffed as he fell back into his chair. So what do you 2 want? I thought you both had plans like everybody else. Us? Plans? Nocturne replied, pointing a hoof to herself before shaking her head. Not today. It's been a very boring day, Evening said with a sigh. Work has been extremely slow ever since Estrus started up, Nocturne added with a nod. There's been hardly anything for us to do, Evening continued before going silent for a moment. A knowing smirk tickled her muzzle. Oh, now I'm gonna start teasing now that we're going to do. I don't know, man. Oh, it's been a while since I've been hyped, and for my fingers just be hyped about it too. Of course, the same can't be said for you, dear little brother. Nocturne said, biting her lip mischievously. Suddenly, Evening gasped as her hooves came up to her muzzle, and she looked back at her twin in what only could be mock of surprise. Nocti, whatever could you mean? Chris also looked up at Nocturne with a raised eyebrow, curious about what she meant as well. Damn typo. It seems our little brother has been quite busy over the past few days, Eve, Nocturne said as she looked over to her identical counterpart. Oh my goodness, Evening shrieked in excitement. Has our sweet innocent little brother been up to no good? Do tell, sister, do tell. What are you two talking about? Chris asked, his heart starting to beat a little faster again, knowing they were both up to no good. What they were talking about, he had no clue, but something about this whole situation sent a shiver of trepidation up his spine. Well, it seems he's been a very busy and a very naughty little coat, Nocturne hummed from behind her back. She pulled out a tattered and dog-eared journal. Different colored ribbons were scattered throughout the pages, bookmarking so places. Moondrop's cutie mark was emblazoned upon the cover. Oh no. Ah, Moondrop, why did you write it? Why? Moondrop. Also, we can snitch on them about this too. We can snitch on those two. Chris immediately recognized it as the diary that he had custom made for her birthday. Oh, that's adorable. Oh my gosh. Evening shrieked again with a happy giggle, rocking back and forth from the ceiling as she threw her forelegs out, pointing them to the ground. The diary of the weeb one. Soon all shall be revealed. The weeb one. Yes, sister, you speak the truth, Nocturne hummed as she flipped to a spot marked by a pink ribbon. Ah, yes, here it is. According to our dear little Moondrop, you've been quite busy around the house. Nah, where was that tasty little tidbit again? Third paragraph, halfway down. How could you forget, sister? Evening giggled as she swayed, dropping her unknowing act all of a sudden. Her eyes were now locked with Chris's face as she waited to see his reaction. Oh, of course, Nocturne said, as if it was just coming back to her. How could I possibly forget? She scanned the page for a moment before perking. Ah, there it is. She cleared her throat before speaking in a weak imitation of the younger sibling. And then, just when I was at my weakest, he used that powerful tongue of his to do the unspeakable with savage lust in his eyes. Lust for his beautiful little sister. He leaned down and licked my marehood. He was savage and strong, looking at me like a wild beast who had lost all control, taken over by his forbidden desire to have what he could never. Me, his innocent little sister, and I let him have all of me, all for him to take without question or hesitation. I was his to enjoy, and oh, how he enjoyed me. Explosions of ecstasy flashed all over my body like the night sky after the summer sun celebration. I was putty in his strong masculine hands. His powerful tongue made quick work of me, flicking over my sensitive button and lapping up the sweet forbidden nectar of my lust. But was he done there? No, of course not. Such a loving and lust-crazy beast could never be satisfied with a simple test of my forbidden fruit. He wanted it all. No, he did it all. He needed me, and I was ready for him. My aching merit was soaked with my love, which only made his entry into my heated soul all the easier. At that beautiful moment, I knew that I could never go back to a cooler ever again. Jesus Christ, man. Moondrop. I'm not sure if that was cut from the last chapters, but come on, Moondrop, you can't just be writing that stuff down. Ooh, Evening growled with wide eyes. Spicy. Chris's heart leapt to his throat, threatening to pound out his chest as he looked between the twins, all colored fading from his face. Out of portions and thinking fast, he lunged for the diary. Why would you lunge for it? I would just be like chill about it. Alright. Oh, so she had an amazing time. That's good to know. Like, I would literally just say that. I wouldn't even question them just giving me the details. I'm like, she enjoyed it. I'm done here. I did my job. Nocturne simply dodges Chris's desperate move with a quick flap over wings, curling her body up to the ceiling, so she was compliant out of his reach. Luckily, the hardwood floor broke his fall as he landed his face first, then Nocturne uncurled herself and turned around so she was facing him. She swayed about upside down, grinning like a fox in a henhouse as she huffed the book off to continue reading. Even coughed into her hoof before continuing to read. Why would you continue this? With desire in my brother's eyes, he pounded me into submission, stretching the limits of my stamina with each powerful and commanding thrust. Each time our hips met, we became one, taken over by our basic instincts and desires. We went on for what seemed like hours, but when his pleasure peaked, he tilted himself inside my poor unprotected filly hole, ready to give me everything he had. With a loud and sexy moan, he released all of his built-up love, letting it flow into me, claiming me for his own. It felt like a firehouse had exploded inside me, and I melted in an instant, surrendering myself to him for all eternity. Once he was finished, he pulled out, letting his love leak from my aching manhood. It was like nothing I had ever experienced before. It felt like a warm waterfall almost between my legs, a lusty waterfall of my brother's semen, a cummy fall of brotherly love. I want to just slap Moondrop for writing this in a diary. I don't know how I feel about these two touching the diary and I guess blackmailing Chris or something of the sort. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen with this information they're just spewing onto him. Naughty Chris, Nocturne cooed once her sister had finished reading the passage. She shook her head, even though a grin was prominent on her face. Filling your sweet innocent little sister with a cummy fall of brotherly love, such a perverted thing to do. How could you? Well, she wasn't the first one. Let's start from the beginning, alright? It started with these three. Just think of what Mother would say. Evening added with a devilish smirk. Wait. Chris shouted as he pushed himself off the floor. It's not like that. Oh, Nocturne said as she took the book from her sister and reread the passage herself. No, I think it's pretty much clear as day. Naughty little brother. Evening added with a giggle as she started to sway back and forth. Starting back and forth between the twin smirking faces. Chris swallowed thickly. Sweat began to bead up on his brow, and he felt his heart racing in his chest. Come on, you know how she can be, Chris said in a shaky voice, giving an awkward chuckle. It was still trying to find a way out of the situation. You know how she makes stuff up all the time. It's just another one of those weird fantasies of hers. What was the title of that diary entry called again, Nocti? Evening asked, looking to her twin. The day I finally fucked my human brother Chris, and I loved it. Why is the title called? I swear to God. Moondrop needs to just not write anything down. Nocturne read as she eyed the page. Oh, and there is even a date and timestamp at the bottom, along with a kiss mark. Can't fool us, little brother, even said with a smirk. The diary of the weeb speaks only the truth. The diary of the weeb is only the truth. I love it. I love the concept here. Wait, what's this? There seems to be a quote next to the timestamp. Nocturne continued before going back into her poor impression of their sister Moondrop. I can't believe this actually happened. I will remember this date and time for the rest of my life. She's extremely happy, alright? I'm not sure how Chris feels about this matter right now, though. I think he's like trying to get out of it, but like, what can you do? They're gonna find out eventually. I'm not sure what your mom would say, since she's your stepmom, but she'll take care of you. I don't know what your mom would say about this. Like, I feel like you might get kicked out, but at the same time, I'm assuming she cares about you. So, you've been here for a while, you know, you could probably not. I don't know how this is gonna transpire, but I love it. Chris bit his lip as he looked up at the smiling and cackling twins. Their laughter sending a chill down his spine. It was over now. They knew everything, and there wasn't anything he could do to save himself or his sisters. Well, it was true. He didn't think the relationship he had with his siblings would remain secret forever. He wasn't expected to come to light so soon. He didn't even get a chance to come up with an explanation that would have put things in a softer light or have a good excuse for his poor behavior. Is it poor behavior though? Okay. Not the story. Is it off the record for him to be like of course he fucked his 3 stepsisters, which is probably already bad when you think about it, but at the same time they all love each other, and these two probably love him the same way. We're just gonna have to build up that part because, you know, story and context. But is it bad when like one was literally dressing up in makeup and trying to get skinny for him while he's trying to like make her healthy again? The other two just, I don't know how that happened. The first two, I don't know how that happened. It just happened, alright? Even worse, it had been Nocturne and Evening who found out about it first. That was gonna be trouble. That was gonna be trouble in and of itself. It was never a good idea to allow the twins to get dirt on somebody for any reason. It was all in the open now, and the twins would surely tell their brother. Look, sister, Nocturne said as she pointed to a sentence in the book. Moondrop even described how he tastes. What? Moondrop, I swear, good God. Goodness, even still with a giggle as she read the passage. You're right, she really liked it. You know who might really enjoy seeing this? Nocturne said with a wide, mischievous grin as she looked up to her sister. Evening hummed in a mocked no for a moment, her own grin growing as she wondered. I'm not sure, sister. Whoever could you mean? Perhaps Mother would be interested in this, Nocturne clarified with a giggle. He does enjoy a good love story, and this is quite the read. Oh my God, Moondrop, I swear to God. Moondrop. I swear to God. At the mention of his mother, Chris's heart skipped a beat. His cheeks grew cold as his face paled, opening his mouth. He tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, a low, grasping wheeze escaped his lips, almost like a quiet scream. This was it. This is how it was ended. The twins giggled at each other above him, and his heart sank even further, lost in his terror-fueled thoughts. And staring off into space, he began to plan out his new life as a loner, drifting from town to town, looking for food and work. He could feel tears starting to well in his eyes as the weight of the situation came crashing down on him. He had no one to blame but himself. Yeah, I'm pretty sure like the twins think like you're just gonna get a little bit in trouble, not like you're thinking you're gonna get in trouble, like you're getting kicked out of the house type trouble. Well, the twins be like, oh, you're gonna get reprimanded or something. So, Oh my god, I want to see how the story continues, but I'm probably gonna have to wait 6 years again because it's from the same damn author as Human and You, and it's gonna annoy me. Hey, Evening's voice called to him, causing him to look back up. Both of his sisters were now looking at him with some concern in their faces. It's not that big a deal. With a soft sigh, Nocturne closed the diary. Alright, I think we teased him enough. Yeah, Evening said, clicking her tongue. It seems we might have gone a little too far. Our poor little brother looks as if he's seen a ghost. This snapped Chris out of his fearful daze, and he could feel the blood flowing back into his knee. My boy's pissed now. Back into his face. With a hand, he wiped away some of the tears from his eyes before they could fall, glancing between the twins before peeking out a simple... But what? Relax, brother. Breathe. Nocturne said with a roll of her eyes. You know, you're really worry way too much about everything. You need to learn to take a joke once in a while. Chris blinked. A joke? Yeah, we already knew about what was going on between you and our sisters. Even giggled, smiling again. You what? Chris shouted. Oh my yes. Nocturne said with the corners of her lips creeping upwards into a cheeky grin. I mean, come on, brother. It's really not that hard to notice when the weeb and the smart ones stay up all night chatting about it. The walls in this place are rather thin. Oh, that's so messed up, dog. Even Adu doesn't nod. Some putting in sneezes and the whole house knows. Of course, without lovey-dovey all become so suddenly, it wasn't hard to put two and two together, Nocturne continued. I mean, you both knew, and you just, Chris stammered his first clenched. His anger started to rise within him as he gritted his teeth. The twins were notorious for playing pranks and jokes on other members of the household, but this was on a whole new level. I think I said level on the last part. He had actually been fearful, not only for his future, but for the future of his sisters as well. As if sensing his emotions, the twins both blinked before rolling their eyes in an almost synchronized motion. Oh, relax, Nocturne cooed as she dropped from the rafters. She slipped the diary beneath her wing as she landed gracefully on her hooves. Everything followed her twin, doing a good flip on the way down. You know, you take everything way too seriously sometimes, she said as she straightened her mane. She said, it's not like we were really going to tell Mom. A mysterious grin slowly spread across her face, or rather, we don't want to. Oh yes, Evening agreed with an eager nod. It would be such a shame if we had to inform our dear innocent mother of our younger siblings' more intimate and insatious actions as of late. Chris hung his head and groaned before closing his eyes and taking a deep breath, steadying breath. He grumbled quietly to himself as he shook his head in disbelief. His mind still trying to process the events currently unfolding before him. It felt unreal, like this was all just some silly nightmare. He would wake up at any moment to Moondrop bouncing painfully on his stomach. But this was no dream, and he knew it. It was obvious from the start that this was where the conversation had been going, and now he just wanted to get it over with. Alright, I'll bite, Chris said. He lifted his head. What do you want? Us wanting something from you, Nocturne said with a fox shock, even as she stroked the cover of the book with the fingers of her ring. Why, whatever do you mean, dear sweet little brother? Surely you're not suggesting that we would ask for a small, tiny, insignificant, but certainly quite generous and loving favor for our sons, are you, little brother? Besides her, Evening was trying to maintain an expression of deep hurt and sadness, but her lips couldn't help but twitch into a smile every now and then. Sure, Chris Devan. Look, can we just cut the crap already? I know you two want something, so spill it. Well, Nocturne said, slowly scratching her chin with the tip of her wings bat-like fingers. Slowly a small blush began to spread across her cheeks as a faint but somewhat never-sounding laugh escaped her lips. There might be one tiny little thing you could do for us. Yes, Evening quickly added, also sounding just as nervous as her own cheeks became a slight rosy color. Very small, very insignificant, but a big help. We all know where this is going. Chris ignored the weird way Evening was speaking, rolling his eyes before letting out a defeated sigh. Yeah, I'll get it already. It's a small favor. So what do you two want? You want me to be in your slave for a month, do all your chores, be your test subject for your weird witchcraft experiments? Just tell me so we can get this over with. They're nervous, fam. They're nervous. We all know what's gonna be here. Evening and Nocturne looked at each other, both of them biting their lips as if to try and hold back more nervous laughter. Their cheeks grew an even lighter shade of pink as they seemed to communicate with each other telepathically, both making small head gestures as their heads started to kiss them back to each other. After a short while, they both nodded in unison, appearing to come to some kind of agreement. Chris visibly tense as both of their hypnotic and strangely beautiful green eyes landed back on him. He sat up and prepared himself for the worst. "Well, as you know, brother," Nocturne started to say, putting on a calm demeanor as she slowly walked up to Chris. "We're both pretty amazing when it comes to our job as acupuncture specialists." "Yes," Evening added, quickly jumped in as she walked up next to her sister. "But you should also know, even masters must practice their craft regularly." "Wait, hold up," Chris said. Where this was going? Are you telling me that you two just want to practice your acupuncture on me?" Both twins nodded together, their cheeks practically touching. Chris couldn't help but notice how uncharacteristically adorable they both were being, and he gave them a strange look before laughing loud. "That's really it? You just need me for practice, and here I was thinking it would be something more. I don't know. Crazy or demanding?" "Of course not," Evening said with a dismissal. "We told you it was just a small little favor." "But," Nocturne added, suddenly grabbing Chris' attention, "she must do whatever we ask, no questions or second thoughts. She must comply with our instructions and demands for the whole session." Chris raised an eyebrow, but shrugged his shoulders. "Sure, I mean, I can do that, no problem. I do have one question, though." "Oh?" Both the twins asked in unison. "Why do you want to practice on me?" Ah, shoot. Messed it up. Alright, water break, I guess, while I try to fix that up. "Why do you want to practice on me? I mean, I'm not a pony, so my anatomy is different. I'm sure that's really not much help to you in the long run, since all customers are bat ponies." Both sisters' eyes seemed to light up at the end, and they turned to look at each other, as if both were looking for the other one to have an answer, but soon they both smiled and looked back at him. "Because we can't go to our dear sisters," Nocturne answered with a smile. "Blue Moon has belanophobia, and Dawn has hemophobia and doesn't trust us, if you recall. The dweeb wouldn't be able to shut up and sit still long enough, and you know we don't have needles big enough to affect penumbra, so she wouldn't make for good practice. Plus, she has her little plants that she loves so much. She doesn't need us for relaxing or so she says." "Exactly," Evening added quickly, clapping her hooves together excitedly as if praising her twin for her explanation. "Not only that, but you aren't really so different from a minotaur or dragon that might walk into our store. You have a very similar figure to them, just without scales or fur." Chris thought about that for a second, thinking back to all the dragons and minotaurs he hadn't met in his life, which turned out to be none, but we don't get any creatures like that out here. "No more questions," Nocturne shouted as she took flight and quickly flew behind Chris. She lightly butted his back with her head, getting him to stand up and start walking to the escape hatch. "You must obey. Remember, you have to help us and do as we say." Alright. Damn, I feel like you could have just asked him and he would have just said yeah. Chris said as he unlocked the hatch and dropped down the ladder. He wasn't sure why she was so eager to go all of a sudden. If you keep pushing me like that, I'm gonna fall." At his words, the twins eased up on their shoving, but they still hurried him down the hallway, giggling and tittering all the way a while. They descended the stairs to the lower levels, Chris having to take the steps 2 at a time in order to stop himself from being tripped. Thankfully, Evening helped him keep his balance until they reached the correct landing. After that, she returned to helping her sister shove Chris down the hall like a bag of oats. This continued for a minute or two until they arrived outside the twins' shared room. Throwing open the door, Nocturne used her wing to push Chris inside Chris inside before both twins squeezed in after him. Chris swayed back and forth on the thin vine-like platform, waving his arms about. As he tried not to fall off, regaining his footing, he peered downwards. The twins' room was The twins' room was one of the more unique rooms in the house. Cylindrical in shape, it spanned several floors in height, and unlike the majority of the rooms, it was carved out of the center of the tree's trunk. This meant that there were no windows, and a heavy darkness filled the room, broken only by a handful of paper lanterns. They hung from various root-like structures that ran along the walls, twisting and spiraling down from the ceiling towards the floor. These wooden structures created natural pathways that moved vertically and led to 3 doors that were at different levels in the wall. Each one led to a different floor of the house, and by using these, the twins could move from floor to floor without ever taking the stairs. To add to the weirdness, each of the wooden tubes was hollow, and when the room was quiet enough, you could hear water gurgling softly through the makeshift pipes. So no wonder why they can stick around. A pair of net-woven hammocks hung around the center of the room, each one filled with various plump pillows of differing shades of brown, green, and light gray. A net was draped across the room a few feet beneath the hammocks, and beanbag chairs, blankets, and pillows littered the surface. It looked almost like a giant nest with books and a few old dolls sitting within the depths. At the very bottom of the room, on the floor far below, a platform rose out of the wood. A plush mat sat in the center of the raised area, surrounded by candles of various sizes and colors. Shelves and cabinets were carved into the walls around it and were stuffed with various bottles, boxes, and towels. Chris looked around in the room in awe. He had been inside a few times in the past, but that didn't stop the sight from always amazing him. "Come on, Chris, let's go," Nocturne called out as she fluttered down to the nest below. Landing, she sauntered over and slipped through one of 4 large holes in the netting that allowed for the pet ponies to fly down to the floor without the net getting in the way. Evening followed close behind her, doing a mid-air pirouette before diving headfirst through another one of the holes. Rolling his eyes at their antics, Chris picked his way carefully down the twisting path system. The sound of clinking jars and rustling cloth drifted up from below as the twins flitted from cabin to cabinet. By the time he reached the floor, the pair had both donned matching lavender smocks and were standing on the platform in the middle of the room. Matching smocks? What are smocks? Lavender smocks. Ah, work attire by the looks of it. I see. Okay. Gotta get my bearings a bit. As he approached, Nocturne motioned towards the mat with a wing. "Alright, kids, lay down on your back and get comfortable for us, please." Yes, Evening added. "We will need you to relax for us, to clear your mind of all negative thoughts." She ended by closing her eyes and making a small zen-like gesture over her body, as if signaling what she would do to calm himself. "Yeah, right," Chris smirked as he moved over to the mat, only to be stopped by Evening himself on his leg. She tissed. "Not so fast, brother." "What?" Chris asked with a slight annoyance. "I'm doing what you asked." "Clothes off, please," Evening clarified with a smile. "The needles won't work through that weird clothing you always wear. It's also harder for us to find your pressure points." Right," Chris said, sounding uneasy, but did as he asked, putting his shirt over his head before tossing it off to his side. His pants followed and he kicked them over to join his shirt, leaving him only his boxers. He felt a moment of hesitation, but it quickly passed. It wasn't the first time any of his siblings had seen him in his underwear. They were usually his only cover when trying to survive the heated, humid days of summer. Clambering up onto the platform, he made his way over to the mat before flopping down upon it with a thump as he got comfortable. The twins circled him, their green eyes darting over his exposed chest. "Oh dear, just look at that," Nocturne hissed, shaking her head. "It's far worse than we originally thought." "What is?" Chris asked, glancing down at his body as well. "Your muscles are far too tense, dear brother," Evening said as she unfolded a wing and slightly stroked his chest with the tips of her fingers. Chris shivered at the feeling. "There, you see," Evening cooed, "much too tense. You've been so stressed lately, but don't worry, your big sisters are here to take care of that." She stepped aside just as Nocturne placed a small case down next to the mat. The pair fumbled with the latch for a moment before the lid flipped open, revealing several rows of thin needles. I hope he's scared out of my mind. It's like they were trying to do something to me. All I gotta say. "Now hold still, Chris," Nocturne said softly as she picked up one of the needles with the thumb of her wing. "This won't hurt, I promise. You might feel a light pinch or maybe even a prick, but no pain," Evening added, gently grasping a needle of her own. She moved around to sit on the other side of his chest. "Just lay back, close your eyes and relax." Chris cast one last look at the needles before doing as he was instructed, laying his head down upon a pillow that had been provided. He closed his eyes and tried to relax, but the 2 giggling, whispering mares on either side of him were making that rather hard. He could feel them looming over him, could sense their eyes scanning his body. The suspense of when they were start sticking the needles into his skin was growing, and unconsciously his muscles began to tense up. This caused Evening to tiss softly. "Oh, come on now, Chris. We told you relax. You think of the weeb one and her soft and round butt on your lap as she places tender kisses on your neck." Nocturne added, I like how they called her the weeb one. Nocturne added, both sisters cackling softly. As awkward and strange as it was to hear his older sisters just that to him, it was surprised that it started to work when you finally really focused in on it. Then it happened. There came a light tap on the right side of his chest, followed by something that felt barely like a mosquito bite. For a moment, that was all that happened, but then a dull, tingling sensation began to spread out from the site, followed by a comfortable warmth. Slowly, he felt his muscles begin to relax and his body went limp. "What the?" He breathed an unexpected calm fell over him. Pointing his eyes, decided to lift his head to look, but was stopped as the bat wing gently pushed him back down. Evening giggled while keeping in pant. See, we told you so. This was followed by another tap on the other side of his chest, followed by the same feeling of growing bliss. Laying his head back down upon the pillow, Chris closed his eyes and actually relaxed. Minutes melted together into what felt like hours as the treatment continued, with the light taps working their way gradually across his chest until they met in the middle. His muscles unwound, tension he didn't even know was present, draining him away, leaving him with almost a sense of floating. He was dimly aware of some pony humming softly above him, adding to the already overwhelmingly calm atmosphere. Are you sure it's gonna be that calm for a while? To come? The warmth spread out from his chest, flowing from his core and down his limbs, until he could feel it even better in his toes. There was a dull, comforting thrum, almost like his entire body was pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Is this the Ch.5 thing that ponies constantly go on about? Chris mused sleepily. Excuse me. If this is what I felt like every time, you could easily see how ponies would flock to have treatments in order to feel better. Yeah, I didn't felt this relaxed in years. I'm gonna let them talk me into this. I think there's a catch to this, sir. But we're gonna figure that out together. He was pulled from his daze by a sudden tap on his stomach, right above his belly button. Unlike the previous taps, though, this one sent a prickly sensation flowing down into his loins. Another light tap followed the first, and his breath caught in his throat for a moment. The tingling grew to the point of being almost uncomfortable, but as suddenly as it started, the sensation ceased, leaving him with the warm, floating feeling again. The humming had returned, this time with an accompanist. The notes were low, practically a purr that reverberated through the incense-filled air. With a sweet scent in his nose and the low croning in his ear, Chris found himself slowly beginning to drift off into a half-sleep. He teetered on the edge, skirting in this line between wakefulness and slumber as he enjoyed the surreal calmness that washed over him. He could feel himself slowly fading into a sharp gasp from above him pulled Chris from his daze. Oh no, Nocti, it's just as we feared. His sinful hunger is insatiable. His mind still in the process of starting back up. Chris groaned. What are you talking about? He started groggily. He tried to clear his fogged mind and picked himself up, but that was proven to be impossible. His body was not responding to him. Oh, no, that's messed up, dog. It seems our brother's incestuous desires knows no bounds. Chris could hear Nocturne agreeing playfully with Evening. Chris could hear both of the twins letting out a long, drawn-out sigh of mock disappointment. Starting to relax flog, Chris's brow furrowed. He tried to make more of an effort to get up. What are you two talking about? He began to ask, only to freeze when he felt something nod his crotch, making him realize how hard he had become. His eyes snapped open as his mind began to celebrate. He looked down to find both the twins draped above his waist, staring at the tent that had grown in his pants. Upon seeing him staring at them, Nocturne gave him a cat-like grin before motioning towards the bulge. Care to explain yourself, brother? She asked as she gently pawed at the twitching bulge, petting it with the soft underside of her hoof. Chris gasped at the attention his rock-hard member was receiving, and some pre-cum leaked from his tips, starting to stain his boxers. His cheeks started to burn as his heart pounded loudly in his chest. He had no idea why he had gotten so hard, and embarrassment and fear began to build up deep within him, overpowering the previous relaxing days as he had previously been enjoying. He tried to reply, but Evelyn spoke up before he could defend himself. Have you no shame, Christopher? Oh, what? Evelyn gasped as using his full name in a scornful manner. Such a naughty little brother. How could you? And in front of your own sisters. It appears our little brother's insatiable lust cannot be contained, and I don't think he can control it, dear sister. Nocturne disc, pushing the bulge down with the tip of her hoof until it was pressed flat against his lower abdomen, where she continued to gently massage it up and down. This caused the member to jerk and leak even more pre-cum, wetting his boxers and skin even more. Why do I feel like they paralyzed him, which they probably did, and they injected him something so he could just get rock hard? I feel like these two things have occurred, and I want to know the reasoning behind it, because I'm pretty sure if you just asked him, he wouldn't care. Chris's whole body trembled as Nocturne played with him, sending uncontrollable jots of pleasure through him. Wait, it's not. For shame! Evening cried in mock horror before he could finish. Our brother truly is a dirty pervert, the ones that mother warned us about. What should we do? Chris started to go into a panic as he tried to sit up, but his body just wasn't responding at all. Something was wrong, something out of his control, and he started to panic. Now, Nocturne cooed calmly as she continued to play with his hard cock, keeping it pinned against his body as it twitched and pulsed. Let's not be hasty, dear sister. It's hard to blame our poor, naive little brother when he's in the presence of such beauty. Evening kept a stern look on her face, but not in agreement. You speak truth, sister. Our beauty is unmatched. Fam, I want Chris just to wake up and just ram both of them. I don't give two nonsense what he's been through right now. I just want him to ram them both and be like, alright, if that's all you wanted, you could have just asked. I want him to just be like, saying that. God. Like, I want him to get up, be mad as heck, and just ram the both of them. Meaning, what them until they don't know their names anymore, and then just be like, you could have just asked. I want him to say that. And he is just a simple male after all, Nocturne added, even nodding again with even more enthusiasm. It's simply not his fault that he has no control over his own desires, even when it's in his own family. Well, technically you're not his family. I'll be honest, he's your stepbrother. You're literally a different species, so you don't really count, alright? But you're still his family, no matter what. But Evening started to say, her tone and posture taking on a more concerned demeanor before looking down to where his cock was starting to pop out of his boxers. The fabric unable to contain him for much longer. Whatever should we do? It looks ready to burst. It's really worse than we thought. If we don't act now, he could turn into a real monster of lust and possess us, so we'll have to come and take him away, Nocturne added with a wicked grin. You don't you dare joke around. What are you talking about? Chris shouted as he again tried to move his arms or feet or something, but his body remained motionless. At this point, it started to become clear to him that something was amiss. The twins were somehow keeping him from moving and messing with him, but how and why? Nocturne continued to speak with Evening as if he wasn't there, all while continuing to massage his large bulge. First off, we must hurry and release it. The poor thing looks like it's suffocating in there. Plus, we can then get a better look at what we are dealing with. A wise decision, sister. Evening cheered up with a clap of her hoof. Very wise indeed. I was so mad at them. You could have just asked him. I swear to God, you could have just asked him instead of going this whole elaborate way. The pair leaned forward, only to pause when Chris shouted at them again to get their attention. Well, what's going on? What are you two doing to me? Us doing something to you? Evening scoffed in mock shock. Why, we were trying to help you, brother. Help you rid yourself of this lustful poison that has clearly taken hold of your body. What? Chris shouted again as he struggled, which both of them noticed this time. Careful, Chris, Nocturne said, her voice playfully yet still serious. Several of the points were tapped to help to relax you, but also numb your limbs. If you try too hard to move them, you might strain something or even end up hurting yourself. You did what? Chris shouted in shock, but immediately stopped trying to struggle. You guys paralyzed me. I wouldn't say paralyzed, Nocturne said with a slight smile, just temporarily immobilized you to maximize your relaxed state as to better tend to your elevated stress levels. It also makes finding your pressure points easier without having to worry about your body twitch in response to our poking and prodding. But it would be best if you just stayed still and let us work. We are professionals after all. I just hate you so much. I hate you so much right now. I hate the both of you so much. Not to mention all the needles still in you, Evening added, gesturing to his chest, and the mini acupuncture needle still located there. Better to just let your older sisters work. Reaching out with her wing tips, she slipped through them beneath the band in his boxers and began to shimmy them down, taking his still strapped cock with him. After a moment of resistance, Chris's member sprung free, swaying back and with a slap to his lower abdomen. Before standing up proudly before the twins, by the moon, Nocturne breathed. Brother, Evening gasped in shock, staring at the swaying spire with bright, glinting eyes, her tail flicked all about, almost like a cat waiting to pounce. It's bigger than we thought, Nocturne mumbled with a hungry lick of her lips. The room fell silent as both the sisters stared at in awe as members, letting it twitch in their air as it stood before them, small dollops of precum slowly rolling down its shaft. I want Chris just to be angry at them. You could have just, I want him to say, like, you could have just asked for this, you know? It looks so different, Nocturne hummed after a while. There's no sheath or flare. Or ring, Evening added with a curiosity as her hoof slowly moved on its own, touching the sensitive skin on his shaft before slowly feeling it up and down. What were you two expecting? Chris stammered, trying to compose himself despite the soft and warm underside of Evening's hoof rubbing against him. He could see that it was pointless to resist anymore, though he still tried to find some way to move. If he concentrated enough, he'd just barely move a finger or two, which was rather difficult at the moment, with a hoof rubbing against the underside of his head. Nocturne began to say, her eyes never leaving his member. She lost her composure for a brief moment. I guess we were thinking that it might be a little like a minotaur's or even a dragon's with soft barbs and a pointed head, but this. Yours looks so different than any we have seen, Evening added, still penning in his shaft. None of our coolers in the shop look anything like this. It's even got a little helmet. Little helmet. That one came back from Bonbon's Acceptance. I swear to God, Bonbon's Acceptance. You got that from Puss Puss. You did. Don't you dare lie to me. Both sisters giggled at that, moving in closer to get a better look. I'm still mad at them. I want Chris to say you could have just asked. Alright? I really want Chris to say that. Water time, break time. I just say drink time, to be honest. You're right, sister, Nocturne said, and such a cute little helmet too. even nodded in agreement, her smile widening even more as she dropped her hoof and used the thumb of her wing to grab hold of his member, keeping him steady so they could study it closer. Chris gasped at her touch, a bolt of pleasure entering his core as the fingers wrapped around him. For whatever reason, he seemed even more sensitive than usual. Leaning forward, Nocturne's nostrils flared wide, and Chris's member twitched as her heated breath washed over him. He suddenly smells enticing enough, she added in a husky whisper. Eugene's eyes widened at her sister's words. She leaned in as well, taking in a deeper breath that sent a shiver down Chris's spine. Oh, it's very pleasant, and a kind of familiar as well. Not in agreement, definitely an enjoyable masculine scent. Chris said in defeat, I guess it's not stopping you two, is there? This caused both of the twins to titter. Come on now, brother, you must have seen this coming, Nocturne said, her own wing joining her sister's, gripping him firmly about the base. We'll stop if you really want us to, Evening added a gentle purr before her eyelids lowered. Although something tells us that you want this as much as we do, Nocturne added, pursing her lips as she got closer to his throbbing member. With a deep breath, she blew softly against his wet, sensitive tip, sending a burst of pleasure down his spine. Chris couldn't say anything at the moment as he took in the situation, his body twitching in reaction. Besides, Evening continued, gently lapping up a bead of pre-cum that had accumulated on top of his dick. And since he teased him, you still owe us, Chris. You owe us big. Chris bit his lip as he watched his sisters play with his twitching member, silent as he took in the lewd and surreal scene before him. There was no doubt in his mind that he wanted this. His sisters were beautiful, and any stallion would be a fool to deny them, but he couldn't help but wonder how in totters he got into this situation for the fourth time. Perhaps it was his fault for being so careless and letting things get so out of hoof with Blue, but now here he was again with his older sisters about to do the unthinkable. You've done this 3 times. Why are you calling it unthinkable still? After a short moment, Chris closed his eyes and sighed, letting his head fall back on against the cushion. He had to accept that this was his world now, his degenerate and shameful world that he prayed his mother never found about. Yes, he said with a sweet sigh. I do want this. I'll be good. With that, both sisters giggled softly before each of them left a small kiss on top of his cold and lonely tip. Very good, little brother, Nocturne hummed. Very smart, little brother, Evening added, giving her dry lips a hungry look. I'm just annoyed that he's paralyzed, honestly. That's the only thing that making me mad about. He's paralyzed. His sisters quickly went to work, both leaning in and pressed their lips against the side of his member, kissing him again. A sort of gasp escaped Chris as 2 sets of seemingly identical lips began to suckle up his heated flesh, his sisters taking what they wanted the entire time, and enjoying everything she had to offer as if his flesh was a delicate and savory treat. The sounds of their needy moans filled the room as the twins fought with one another to get the next drop of pre-cum that had rolled down his glistening length. They licked and kissed, nipped and nibbled, working themselves down to his base and then slowly to his head, where they attempted to kiss each other passionately, intentionally trapping his tip between their lips as they made out. Ooh, I haven't seen that move before. His eyes went wide and his mouth hung open in a silent moan. His mind buzzed with pleasure as he raced to try and take the lewd moment in, doing what little he could in his fog state to burn the image into his memory. Never had he seen such a beautiful sight, and he doubted he would ever see anything like it ever again. He watched closely as his sensitive flesh was consumed by both pairs of soft lips, only for it to reappear again as they titled their heads or pulled back for a brief moment before they drove back in again. The delicate lips trapped him in a wet, velvety vice that sent shivers down his legs. Every time one of them moved their head to get a better angle, he could feel the pointed edge of their sharp fangs ever so slightly rub over his pink flesh, triggering his body to jerk back in a protective reflex. It was an oddly scary but amazing sensation that reminded him of the potential danger, which only added to his excitement. Fam, I'm pretty sure they're gonna be safe with their teeth, alright? Both sisters let out a muffled moan as riflets of drool rolled down his twitching member, coating his shaft and causing it to glisten in the candlelight. It was warm and cool at the same time, increasing his sensitivity to the twins' labored breaths washing over his dick. Instinctively, Chris's hips tried to shift into his sister's makeout session, but his body was still paralyzed. Unable to move, he could only whimper softly like a sad puppy. This caused both his sisters to look up at him for only a sliver of a second before sniggering to each other, knowing exactly what he wanted. Typos, I swear, man. They doubled their efforts, sliding down his length before working their way back up. The movements were slow but methodical, leaving no area untouched by the lips, a gesture that wasn't lost on him. His member was twitched in appreciation just when Chris thought he couldn't take much more and felt his climax nearing. The pair broke off to catch their breaths and leaving his dick cold and helpless, yearning for their attention. Oh, this guy. The twins both closed their eyes and hummed in a delighted glee as he licked their lips, savoring his taste. Such a unique flavor, Nocturne huffed with a satisfied sigh. I can't really describe it, but I can safely say it's a good taste. Evening had already gone in for seconds, leaning down before lapping at their brother's helpless shaft. Before long, she started to explore him a little more, moving down to lap hungrily at his vulnerable balls. Your sudden action startled Chris, and he tried to jerk back, but his body was still not responding to him. Hey, be careful with those. Evening giggled in response as her long tongue caressed his precious flesh, lapping at his sack slowly so she could experience all his flavors. Once she had her fill, she licked her lips before pulling back. His flavor is even stronger here, sister. So salty and masculine. How can a flavor be masculine, Chris thought in his fog-like daze as he watched his older siblings both start to slowly lap at his sack. Before he could think on any further, Evening pulled out one of his delicate orbs into her hungry maw before starting to suckle on it as if it was a simple candy. He could only throw his head back and moan with pleasure at the sensation. Evening's cheeks bulged slightly as she sucked upon her new treat, holding the rest of his precious package and more of her warm jewel. She hummed with joy. Don't hog him all to yourself, sister, Nocturne said with a playful shove, causing Evening to giggle and release Chris's balls. Much as I want to try him down there too. Before he could complain too much, Nocturne dove in and sucked his other testicle into her maw. She too started to suckle on him as her twin had before. You won't be disappointed, sister, Evening said as she watched. Chris moaned as Nocturne continued to enjoy him while humming happily. It didn't take her long to take in all of his natural taste before letting him gently pop out of her mouth. This is a nice, dare I say delicious, Nocturne agreed with the giggle. Such a heavy, musky flavoring. Chris grunted in frustration, having felt his climax coming so close from his sisters playing with him, but now he just felt cold and helpless. The sounds of displeasure caught his sister's attention, and they both looked over him, particularly his still rock-hard shaft that was still leaking an excessive amount of precum. Look at this, Nocturne said as she leaned forward before dragging her tongue up the underside of his shaft, cleaning up the lines of precum that had trickled down his length. Upon reaching his head, she closed her lips around his crown and began to lap at his head, the tip of her tongue with teasing the small source of premature essence. Wet suckling noises and hungry groaning filled the room as the pair took turns savoring their new treat. One slipping at his painfully full balls while the other attacked his head with gusto. For what seemed like hours, the pair played with their food. They gave him just enough attention to keep him writhing, but not enough to push him to the edge. The veins on his shaft bulged, the head turning a dark red as it jerked and throbbed, leaking an absurd amount of precum that Nocturne and Evening were more than happy to clean up. Just when Chris thought he could take it anymore, they finally let up. So pulling back, Evening gave his now full balls one last longing suck before letting them fall from her mouth with a wet pop. Oh dear, she said with mock sadness. I don't think this is working, sisters. Les hasn't gone down at all. If anything, we appear to be making it worse. You are making it worse. Don't you see that? You are making it worse. I feel like you know what you're doing and you're just teasing him, and I hate you for it. I hate you for it so much right now. Nocturne hissed with a pitiful sorrow, shaking her head as if they had failed before going back to suckling on his tip again. She hummed thoughtfully around his head as if she was in deep thought about the matter before finally releasing him. Leaving his tip coated in a thick layer of saliva and precum, gently she began to smear over the length of his shaft with a thumb of her wings as she mused herself. Well, sister, she said after a moment, it might be time to take more drastic measures. Perhaps if we use our other lips instead. Evening gasped. Sister, you can't mean. Nocturne only smiled and nodded. And Evening closed her eyes and sighed before dramatically turning her head away from Chris, placing the back of her hoof on her forehead, as if she was in some kind of cheesy soap opera. There's another way. It must be done. How dare you? How dare you insult me this way? I'm insulted. I am personally insulted by these two. You must make haste, sister, Nocturne said with a nod, still stroking the pulsing member with the tip of her ring finger. We don't want to lose our only brother to the beastly lust demon within him. It's already been gone, you know. Evening quickly pulled her smock off over her head and tossed it to the side. Nocturne fully followed suit, shimming out of her smock before throwing it to join her sisters. Chris watched as his sister with worried curiosity as they sauntered around him. Splitting up, they both took up position on either side of his hips. They both nodded at each other before spinning around and flagging their tails high, giving Chris his full glimpse of their more sacred treasures. Their lips were surprisingly plump, the thick meaty folds positively soaked in with dripping arousal. The fur around their mare hoods and tail hoods was longer than the rest of their coat. The bushy fur a noticeably darker shade of grayish purple, yet fading to a light silver near the tip. They both winked at him, their clits emerging from their folds with a wet, splitching noise that actually sending another gush of arousal down into their furry mounds. The sight caused Chris's member to throb in need. Does our little brother like what he sees? Nocturne said, not cooed, with a taunting wave of her back end, flicking her tail about. Of course he does, Evening said with a giggle, looking over her shoulder at her twin. Such a perverted beast could never resist our perfectly sculpted butts. Stepping back in unison, both mares giggled to each other as they crouched down and with practiced ease, both the rounded cheeks slapped together, pitting their brother's throbbing erection between them. His heated shafts were suddenly wrapped and kissed on both sides, but an entirely different, yet a lot warmer and wetter set of lips. Chris's breath let at him in a loud gasp as his member was sandwiched between two sets of thick, meaty lips, his cock almost completely enveloped in the velvety heated fold. Sweet Luna, he groaned as his mind tried to catch up with what was happening. Both sisters cackled at his reaction before sighing as he pressed their butts together, squeezing him in between their warm mareholds even more. How does it feel, brother? Nocturne asked as she rubbed herself up and down his shaft with Evening following suit, soaking him in their arousal. Chris was speechless, unable to tear his eyes away from her sister's slowly bouncing butts, watching his dick disappear into their backsides. Both sisters laughed at him. Come now, Nocturne continued. Tell us, brother, how does it feel to be living out most cults' fantasies right now? Her pussy winked and her clit smushed itself against his stiff flesh. Evening giggled as she matched her sister's movement. Identical twins, both practically worshipping your cock. Are you sure you aren't dreaming, brother? That's it. This is just a dream, Chris groaned as he watched the impossible play out before him. It has to be. All of this is just a dream. It's no dream, little brother, Nocturne cooed as she picked up her pace, grinding harder against his cock as Evening quickly fell over her head. Such a naughty brother, Evening chastised. Such a terrible, naughty, and perverted little brother. Both sisters matched the other as they continued to massage the hard, heated length between them, going in slow, smooth motions, cackling as they watched their brother's shocked expression. They were having way too much fun teasing their younger sibling, and they had no desire to stop now. Come on, stop. Well, sister, Nocturne panted softly as her own arousal started to creep up. Shall we let him experience the special? The special. Ooh, they got something planned. Ready when you are, sister, Evening replied as her own breath started to sound more labored. Tittering to themselves, they both pushed back against each other and threw their tails over each other's backs. They then craned their necks around before grabbing the other's tail in their mouth and pulling. Oh fuck, Chris cried out as their mouths pressed against him with a greater force, their thick lips consuming his shots with a wet slurping noise. His crotch was immediately soaked in their strength, feminine essence, as both their clits pulsed and pressed up against his hard shaft. Tail still held between teeth, Nocturne and Evening began jerking their hips in sync, caressing their brother's member from base to tip with long, fluid motions. Chris squirmed as best he could, his body still unresponsive. He could only grit his teeth as his sisters worked his shaft. Once their marehood slammed down and squeezed at his base, he could feel their tight little puckers kissing his tip, the ringed muscles flexing and smacking the head. The sensation was completely foreign to him, but a welcome one. Every time they pushed down, he moaned and trembled as his tip pushed into both of his sisters' black cherries. They kept their movement at a relaxed pace until Nocturne suddenly looked back over her shoulder. First one has to watch, she asked around Evening's tail, still clamped between her teeth. Evening nodded, tugging on Nocturne's tail in the process. Be sure to enjoy the show, sister, Evening responded through her sister's tail in her mouth with a taunting smile. Chris was lost in pleasure, but the challenging tone of his sister wasn't lost on him. What are you guys? Chris tried to say, but was found speaking troublesome with his current predicament. He began to open his mouth, only for the words to die in his throat as both sisters resumed their movement with renewed vigor. With schlicking noises filled the air as the twins rode his manhood, grinding themselves on him with a passion-muffled gasp filled the groan as they pushed their rumps back against each other, both working at a fevered pace to reach some kind of goal. They tugged hard on each other's tails, earning gasps and whimpers from the tail's owner. You could feel both their clits pushing out faster and harder as they massaged his shaft up and down. Fuck, you two. Chris managed to speak. Your clits, fuck. Before long, Chris's crotch was a soaked mess of mare juices and a mix of his own arousal. Pleasure began welling up inside him again as his sisters gyrated their hips against his member. The contents of his balls churned, begging for release despite having been emptied numerous times already this week. The twins started to move faster and faster, their breaths becoming more labored as they worked as a solid piston, working as his shaft up and down. Both of their bodies started to tremble, but they kept working, their hard clits pulsating out against their brother's rock-hard shaft at a rapid tempo. Chris could feel his blessed end approaching when suddenly evening locked up. Pushing back against Nocturne, she threw her head back and let out a low, wavering whimper. Her wings snapped open wide, the membranes glowing in the light of the candles. One of her back legs rose up, followed by a splash of heated liquid erupting down Chris's shaft. She stayed like that for a moment, her body trembling before she collapsed upon the floor in a disgraceful heap. Buck, she gasped out, releasing Nocturne's tail as her whole body shook. Panting, Nocturne paused to collect herself before taking in a deep breath. She gave Chris's shaft one last grind before stumbling off. Unsteady on her legs, she almost tripped but managed to stop herself from falling just in time as she tried desperately to catch her breath. Looks, she tried to say between her heavy pants before finally managing to collect herself. Looks like I win, sister. Without skipping a beat, she maneuvered around Chris with a victorious grace, her eyes never drifting from her prize. As she stopped once she was in a position of straddling her younger brother, her mirror dangling tantalizing above his pulsating cock. Her long mane dangled down around her head and tickled his face as she gazed down at him with hooded eyes. Now, she panted as she looked down between them, making sure her entrance was lined up perfectly with her brother's length. She paused to look over at the exhausted loser next to them, seeing her watching their hips with jealous eyes. A bit messed up. Evening whimpered in defeat as she locked eyes with the twin, giving her the biggest set of puppy dog eyes she could muster, silently asking for a rematch. You know the deal, sister, Nocturne said with a slight cackle. Now just stay there and catch your breath. You get to watch as I clean my prize. With that, she lowered herself just enough to allow Chris's tip to just barely kiss her wet folds. Chris swallowed her hard as he felt the heat of her sex tease his member. Are you ready, little brother? She asked, rotating her hips in a clockwise manner, rolling her pussy lips across his tips. It didn't take long for Chris to put two and two together and have a bunch of twos. He knew that what their little game was about, and he wanted it badly. Yes, he growled, more than a little annoyed, but being pushed so close to the edge so many times only to be denied. He was getting a little movement back into his body, the paralyzing effects seeming to have worn off over time. He jerked his hips as much as he could, trying and feeling to penetrate the dripping mirrorhood. But Nocturne was ready and pulled away from him. Patience, brother. Nocturne purred softly, unfurling a wing. She reached down and grasped the twitching member. She angled her hips, aligning his tip with her quivering entrance for a moment. She left it there, her folds teasing his swollen head, but then she began to lower himself. Fuck, Chris hissed as he watched his mirror sink slowly into his sister's heated depths. Her delicate lips slowly parted and stretched to take him in, the mixture of saliva and mercum making his entrance a smooth one. Something that both parties greatly enjoyed, even with the help from the natural lubricant, though there was some resistance, her vaginal tunnel clenching up in excitement as his length made its way in. But by the moon, Nocturne moaned on shaky legs as she felt her brother slowly pierce her body, losing her cool, collected composure for just a moment. This is really happening. Oh, Nocturne can't believe. I like how she won and she can't believe that she's doing this to him. Fam. I'm so mad at you. I'm still mad at you. Could have just asked. Could have just asked for this. Could have just literally just asked for it. I'm so mad. I'm more mad at these two than anything else. Inch by inch, Nocturne descended, taking her time and enjoying the feeling of Chris's member splitting her in two. Her pussy slowly filled and stretched with a tingling warmth as she took more and more of her brother's cock. Her delicate lips stretched as much as they could, while her inner muscles reflexively squeezed and spasmed, working to milk the stallion inside her even as it pushed further into a velvety tunnel, going way deeper than any dumb cooler ever could. A low groan escaped her as she looked down between them, and she started a few inches ago, feeling more full than she had ever felt before. Buck, she moaned doggedly. She pushed herself down, having to force it since it was reaching depths, letting her deepest muscles relax as she slowly took him all in. She let out a startled gasp as their hips met, and his hard pink crown gently kissed her soft cervix. A feeling she had never felt before. Chris could only stare in awe as he watched his manhood being consumed completely by his sister's warm, inviting pussy. He groaned as their hips pushed together, and his whole member was wrapped in a velvety furnace of pure bliss. His cock twitched inside its new home, painting her deepest barrier in his precum as it pulsed with a primal need to claim this new mare. Nocturne could do nothing but take in the sensations of being so full, feeling the masculine warmth fill her belly, and start to scratch that itch she didn't even know she had. It felt so natural to have him right there, right next to her most sacred place. You took him all in, Evening said in a whisper as she watched with a bated breath as the two siblings became one, their tails switching back and forth. On a whim, Nocturne leaned back to see a bulge starting to make itself known just below her belly button. Awestruck, she placed a hoof on the small bump that had appeared, flinging the hard resistance on her hoof. "Oh, Buck, Chris, that's you!" She drew out the last word into a low hiss as she ground herself against his pelvis, her clit weakening and rubbing against Chris's pubic hair. "You're so bucking deep. This is much better than a cooler." Damn, it's a real one. Chris grunted and clutching his eyes shut as his older sister's walls rubbed and gripped as cock with her, grinding his whole length, milked and massaged. Her long silvery pubis tickled his groin, adding to this wonderful sensation. None of his other sisters had any kind of fuzz down there like the twins did, but it wasn't off-putting. They were both well-groomed and it was a unique experience. Oh. What? They have pubic hair? This is interesting. Really interesting and really weird development during this whole thing. Evening started to crawl closer to her siblings, her eyes locked on the small bulge that appeared in her sister's abdomen. As she gyrated on their brother's cock, she watched as her sister's hips moved, causing the bump to recede into her body, only for it to form shortly after. Fascinating, Evening whispered as her hoof came up and placed itself on the bump. Both of her siblings gasped, but Nocturne didn't slow her movements, letting her twin continue rubbing along her stomach. Nocturne was in heaven, feeling stuffed and bloated, having gotten used to her cooler, an actual warm-blooded cock filling her up so nicely now was something she couldn't live without anymore. Slowly she began to rub her crotch back and forth against her brother, delighting in the stimulation and the way his member jostled about inside her. She continued this for a moment longer, letting her twin press on her stomach, causing Chris's cock to rub on her sensitive insides even more and driving her senses wild as her body demanded more. With a soft groan, she gently moved Evening's hoof aside before slowly rising up off of her brother's cock. Evening knew what her sister wanted and leaned back to take in the action, letting her hoof fall between her legs instead. Nocturne's inner muscles flexed around the retreating member, trying desperately to keep it inside where it belonged. It didn't work though, and with a wet pop, the last inch of his soaked member came free. Using her wing to keep his cock pointed upwards, Nocturne shivered as her marehood clenched hungrily at nothing. What a terrible, empty feeling, she whimpered to herself, the cold emptiness sending a shiver down her spine. It's almost unbearable, don't you agree, brother? She couldn't resist teasing him one last time, even though her body was screaming at her to keep him inside. So cold, Chris, damn it, please let me back in. God, this is so cringy. Or corny, it's probably corny. Chris's desperate pleading was music to her ears. She squatted there, poised above him, let her lips dripping arousal down onto his already soaked member. Then without warning, she lowered herself back down, letting gravity take over this time. She let out a soft cry as Chris's tip drove straight into her core, making instant contact with the sensitive entrance to her full factory. It didn't hurt like she had expected it to, but actually sent tingles of blissful pleasure deep into her body. She wanted more. With a groan, Nocturne rose up again to slam down once more, Chris's cock pushing up against her sensitive entrance harder than before. She even spread her legs further apart in an attempt to try and push him as far into her as possible, but deep inside her she could feel his tip trying to reach her last barrier, but it couldn't. "Oh, Chris," she moaned. Her hips rocked, rubbing her cervix against his tip. Can you feel it? You know what that is? Yes, Chris started as he watched his older sister's hips move. Is he? Evening gasped as her hoof started to move faster between her legs, the edge of her hoof circling her hard clit. Is he touching your? Yes, Nocturne hissed in response. Evening, it's like nothing I've felt before. Evening swallowed deeply at the thought, becoming even more jealous of her sister as her hoof picked up more speed. No fair. Without a word, Nocturne started to pick up her hips up again, only to slam down on her brother, causing his tip to push at his cervix on a third time. She got herself into good rhythm, was pissing herself on her brother's cock. Each time she came down, she did her best to push as far into his hips as possible, wanting to feel him kiss her core each time, even daring to see how far they could go. Chris seemed to have the same idea. Having regained some of his movement, he started pushing into his sister's thrusts, their hips slapping together loudly and echoing inside the room. You could feel that small little opening deep in her body, starting to become softer each time he pushed into it. Nocturne noticed as well, her barrier falling to her brother's desperate attempts to get even deeper into her. It was a feeling she couldn't get enough of. "Yes, brother," she got out as she picked up the speed. Almost there, don't stop." They both knew what the goal was, and they both worked hard to make it happen. Thrust was met with thrust, and hips slammed against hips as the pair worked together to achieve their desire. Then after a particularly hard thrust, Nocturne came down for the last time and throwing back her head in a low, loud moan, Chris's tip reached her inner barrier with an audible pop. Fuck! Chris grunted as he felt her soft ring give way, letting himself inside her deepest part. An immense heat tickled his glands as her whole body seemed to suckle on him, trying to bring him in even deeper. Oh, buck, yes, Nocturne gasped, delighting in the feeling of being completely stuffed to the point of having her womb penetrated. Off to the side, Evening's hoof didn't let up as she bit her own wing to fight back her climax. Even though her siblings had stopped to catch their breath, she knew exactly what had happened. She had heard exactly what had happened. The scene before her was too much for her to bear, and she desperately wished Nocturne would trade places with her, but that wouldn't stop her from feverishly massaging her own clit. After a moment, Chris humped his hips into Nocturne, giving her the message. Calm yourself, brother, she whispered in a heavy voice. As she picked up her hips, she winced with pleasure as his tip popped out of her womb and slowly slid down her wet love tunnel. Know what you want, but you must try to hold back. Control that lust even within you. With that, she lowered herself, sliding back down in the heated pool of flesh and letting her marehood envelop her brother's member until their bodies pressed together. His tip popping back inside where it belonged with a much more ease. Without missing a beat, Nocturne rose again, lifting herself up onto her brother's almost slid out. Her marehood gave a comforting wink, her muscles squeezing at his tip for a moment before she descended, slapping their hips together with a wet smack. With that, she began pumping her hips, jerking up and down as she rolled her little brother into earnest, making sure she dropped down enough so he would slip into her womb with every stroke. Tiny grunts and moans escaped her as she gritted her teeth, exposing her abnormally long fangs. With smacks quickly filled the room, and the air was soon saturated with the heated scent of sex. Despite the multitude of candles around them, Nocturne kept up her pace, her wings flexing and flapping to her rise and fall. Each meaty thwack of her sitting down was met by a loud groan from Chris, pleasure welling up inside him as his sister's rump bounced against his hips. So lost in his euphoria, Chris didn't notice that what Evening was up to until he felt a wet sensation against his chest. Opening his eyes, he looked down to see her using a wing to carefully remove the needles from his body with a scary precision. Even as she tended to her own needs, most of them came out clean, but a couple would leak a little blood as they were taken out. With a hungry glint in her eyes, she stopped her work to tend to the small leaks, lapping gently at his blood. She dragged her tongue essentially against his sweaty skin, lapping up at the crimson liquid, making sure she got every single drop before proceeding to the next needle. Well, that's an interesting development too. Okay, so the one on him, the one is clearly in, the one who he's currently in is Nocturne, and Evening is the one who's watching and doing the best, right? Interesting. He watched with a strange curiosity, something about her licking up his blood turning him on even more. It wasn't new to him. He knew why she did it. Both of them twins have been born with the rare blood-drinking genes to them. His blood was a sweet treat, once they didn't get too often, and he didn't mind seeing his siblings partaking in it, especially not from him. It was a slight fear that it was a sight the most feared, but at the moment it just turned him on. He continued to watch her lap by his chest for a moment before his gaze was captured by Nocturne again. Her thrusts had become more forceful, basically setting herself down with each drop, and each time she descended, a bulge would appear in her lower stomach, much larger than the bump had been before. Chris stared at the bulge with wide eyes. Nocty, your stomach. I know, she groaned, her eyes locked on her own abdomen. I can see it, sweet Luna, it's so hot, I'm going to lose it. I can't take much more. I like how when Chris was actually worried about it, like Nocty, I like how he uses pet names when he's worried. With a cry of pleasure, she shut her eyes tight and threw her head back, for her movement became even more erotic, and Chris could feel her inner walls rippling and spasming around him more. Every few seconds, her clit could be seen picking out from her blush. Fuck, hold on, Chris cried, his own end right around the corner. His balls were ready to burst. Just a little more. I want them to go a little longer. Let go, brother. Evening breathed in his ear in a husky whisper, her warm breath taking his skin full her. Oh, your sister. Chris breathed as he watched Dr. ride him like a wild animal's cock making an appearance just under her belly, button with each descent. Just imagine, brother, Evening whispered, her hoof a fast blur between legs. Imagine what you would do when you come inside her. You've been edging this whole time. Your load must be so big. Shh. I hate that you noticed that. Chris shivered at her words. The idea of his seed filling his sister encouraged him even more. It was so depraved, but he couldn't deny how much she wanted it. Just think of how much her stomach would grow once you flood her fertile womb with your essence. Evening continued to whisper, ending with a teasing leg to his cheek and ear, her breath warming his face. He could smell his own blood on her words, but it only helped to turn him on even more fertile. Chris breathed as he watched Nocturne's abdomen continue to bulge with his cock. Why is he questioning fertile? I'm pretty sure they're in heat, right? So yeah, they are fertile. Technically. They're so deep, brother. Evening giggled before she gently nipped on his ear. She will have to take it all at once. You felt it inside her. Just picture it, the little bulge getting bigger and bigger as you feel her. Chris gritted his teeth, a large spike of pleasure flowing through him at the mental image of his sister being forced to take his seat. Nocturne gasped as she opened her eyes and looked down. Chris, you're getting bigger. Naughty little brother, Evening cooed heatedly in a shaky breath. Perverted little brother, does that excite you? Does the thought of our poor helpless wombs being forced to take all your precious seed turn you on? What if the unthinkable happened? What if you got us pregnant? His hips jerked up, catching Nocturne off guard and almost throwing her off. Evening, what are you telling him? Dirty little brother, you're such a naughty pervert little brother. Evening cooed hotly in his ear. I bet you will like that. You will want to see our bellies taut and full of your foals, don't you? Our teeth growing swollen and leaking milk. Chris couldn't take much more of Evening's teasing. Everything she said was true. He didn't want to admit it, but his mind knew the truth. Even if it was just a fantasy, he couldn't deny how much he wanted to see his sisters around with his foal. The pressure kept building up in his core, his body ready to set his best swimmers free. A churning in his balls informed him that they were ready to form, ready to pump the mare riding on top of him, full to the brim and make what Evening was suggesting come true. Nocturne, whose climax was nearing as well, leading forward and placed her hooves on his stomach, picking up her pace as she rode him. Chris, she muttered, her hips moving faster and faster until they were almost a blur. Her mouth squeezed on his member in a desperate manner, trying to quicken his already nearing finish. West Max echoed around the room on his hips, as hips met hips. The pressure in Chris's groin was reaching the breaking point. You could feel his balls twitching, beginning to pull up towards his body as he teetered on the edge. Nocti, I'm gonna do it, Nocturne gasped, not slowing her hips, doing all she could do to milk him. Come for your sister, you naughty cult. Fill me with your foals. Oh fuck, Chris muttered as her words set him over the edge. Something primal woke deep inside him, giving him the godlike strength that broke through the sister's hex on him, and he was suddenly able to move. He pushed himself up with a lightning quickness before wrapping his arms around his sister, pulling her in as close to his body as he could while also pushing her down to his lap. Nocturne screeched with an ear-piercing which reverberated around the room as his massive cock broke into her womb and reached out her back walls. She came in an instant, her pussy punching down on him, milking him furiously as he twitched and pulsed, squeezing his length for everything he had. With one last grunt, Chris released himself, erupting deep inside the screeching mare, painting her womb completely white with the first gush of his hot seed. Her cervix sealed tight around his cock, not letting a single drop escape her core as he continued to pump her full, her body accepting everything he gave her. Chris's fingers dug into Nocturne's body as he held her tightly, his balls working overtime as her body drained him. His member flexing as he dumped burst after burst of cum deep inside his sister. They were both so caught up in the moment, none of them noticed Nocturne's bulging belly with each pump of his cock. Her stomach stood just a little more, until eventually her skin was pressing up against his, her tummy growing tighter as the liquid essence had nowhere else to go. Some part in the back of Chris's pleasure fogged the mind, took note that his climax felt bigger than normal, almost unnaturally so, but it wasn't enough to stop him, and his cock throbbed for a fifth time, sending him more of his seed into his sister's vulnerable womb, and it showed no signs of slowing anytime soon. Fuck, he groaned through clenched teeth as his sixth wave forced its way into his sister. Nocturne was lost in pure bliss, her eyes welling up into her skull as her tongue lolled out of her mouth. Her body was completely overwhelmed with the intense warmth that kept filling her, as well as the presence of the strong male holding her in place. She gladly accepted all he had, but something about him having no trace as Chris held her there was just excited her more. Eventually, both their climaxes came to an end, and Chris collapsed backward, taking his sister with him. His vision started to blur as darkness took him, throwing him into a black void with his sister laying on top of him. For a moment, everything was darkness, but light soon returned. Second, opened an eye, Chris glanced around, seeing Nocturne on top of him, while Evening was busily lapping at his chest. Again, licking up the small drops of blood that leaked out from the small needle holes. He moaned as his body trembled as Nocturne's vaginal muscles clenched down on him, reminding him that he was still balls deep inside his sister, whose body was still trying to milk him. Did I pass out? Chris groaned as Nocturne started to move as well, pulling herself up off his chest. Even hummed as she gave it a few last licks, but only for a minute or so. Nocturne propped herself up, placing her forehead on Chris's stomach in order to steady herself. She was coming down from her high as well, but quickly sobered up when she heard a gasp from her twit and Nocti, look. She looked down, only to see her stomach swollen, full to the brim with her brother's cum, and making her look almost like she was 4 months pregnant. Holy shit, Chris breathed as he too saw it. The sight causing his member to jerk inside knocked him again as a particularly large glob of cum squeezed down his shaft and forced its way into her already full womb. Nocturne gasped as he felt the skin around her stomach stretch a tiny bit more, causing her legs to tremble as she attempted to keep herself upright. Buck, evening, Nocturne gasped as she rubbed her top belly. We might have overdone it. Chris was in a foggy daze, too distracted with the lewd sight to pick up any kind of words being spoken. Evening didn't respond. She only placed a hoof on her sister's belly, rubbing it with jealousy. It's so not fair. With a weak grunt, Nocturne clasped upon Chris's chest, her forelegs doing a little to keep her up anymore. She tried to stop herself from pressing her blood belly into his stomach, not wanting to lose the feeling of fullness just yet. There's so much. It's not stretching. It's stretching me, Nocturne moaned. I wanted to feel that evening mind as she kept hitting her sister's stomach. I don't think I've ever come that much, Chris said with a groan. The cock still keeping her plugged as she tried to make sense of what happened. It felt really good, but too good, like it was unnatural. I just didn't think it was possible to come that much. He didn't chuckle at his words. That's because it was all natural, or rather natural, but needed some help. We use a special pressure point that causes your reproductive organs to quadruple their load, but we didn't think it would work this well. Nocturne hummed happily as she rubbed her belly. It worked perfectly, she said contentedly. Chris blinked. You two did that? Yep, we set your balls into overdrive, Evening said almost alpha-handedly as she poked and prodded at her sister's tight tummy. She let out a sad sigh. There are certain pressure points that will increase a male's potency and volume, but it appears you are more susceptible to it than normal ponies. That, or you were just way too excited, she huffed, her tail flicking in annoyance as she turned away, head away, and I didn't even get to experience it. Despite his wonderful afterglow, Chris could tell his sister was upset. He struggled to sit up, causing Nocturne to fall sideways off of him with the whine. His softening cock slipped from her folds, taking the only thing keeping his seed trapped inside her with him. As soon as his cock popped out of her wet folds, the fall of his white infant started to leak out of her womb. No, Nocturne whined as she did her best to clench her muscles together to keep as much of his seed inside of her as she could. Not yet, let me feel this just a little longer. Chris ignored her as he scooted closer to Evening, giving her a weird look. What's wrong, Evening? She sighed again before looking over to Chris with sad eyes. It's just, I know it's selfish and knock you on fair and square, but well, I really wanted to your full batter, Chris. Full batter, Chris. That's an interesting way to describe it. It's just not fair. You got to pump Nocky full of full cream. So much so that she's now licking your glorious essence out of her thoroughly used fuck box. She's completely satisfied, but meanwhile, rolling over onto her back with a depressed huff, she has exposed her swollen mirror, which was leaking arousal down around her tail hole and into her matted tail. That's because while she grew out a hoof against her weakening pit. I'm still in heat. When Snocky got a good old running, and I'm stuck using the stupid cooler right tonight now. And I couldn't even finish myself when you guys were doing it, even though it was the hottest thing I've ever seen. Oh, that's gonna suck. So I'm not sure what Chris is gonna do. Well, I won't leave you out in the cold, Chris said as he laid down and started to play with his soft dick, trying to bring new life into it. But unfortunately, that massive climax had taken a lot. Just give me a few minutes, and I'll get to you. And I'll get to you too, unless they messed you up now, which would be so annoying. I think they broke your dick. Basically, it doesn't work anymore like it used to, which you can literally go on for hours. I'm not sure about them. As he tried to jumpstart himself, Nocturne stepped over and made her way to Evening, her belly almost back to normal, having leaked out most of what Chris had given her already. There was still a decent bulge to it, though. And with each step she took, a small amount of cum would squeeze out of her well-used hole and splatter on the floor. Who's gonna clean that up? That's my question. Upon reaching Evening, she moved around her until both their heads were in line with each other. They locked eyes, and Nocturne smiled before going in for a kiss. His eyes widened with amazement and shock as he saw his sisters making out like they'd been married a married couple for years. They both pressed into the kiss, their heads tilting each other as their lips danced together. This continued for a good while until they suddenly pulled back to beat. A small stream of saliva connected them. Now, sister, Nocturne concluded with a tone voice. Do you think I don't know your cycle is at its peak right now? I will never forget about you. I will always share it with you. And our brother's little gift is no exception. Nocti, Evening whispered curiously, come, raise your hips up for me and spread yourself. Evening didn't have to be told twice. With a renewed vigor, she threw her hips up into the air and reached out with the thumbs of her wing, using them to spread her aching merhood wide open for her sister. That's a good girl, Nocturne concluded before turning around. Looking back at it, she angled her backside to be just on top of her sister's spread and ready pussy. With her own wings, she spread herself upon, similarly to Evening. and angled her butt downwards with her forehead. She pressed on her still bulging tummy, forcing their brother's seat out of the room. Slowly, a thick glob of white started to ooze out of her folds. Are they? Don't tell me they are. I am. What? Don't tell me they are doing this. Evening, having the perfect view, looked deep into her sister's spread and mirrored her with bated breath, watching as the precious white essence oozed out and slowly began to descend towards her waiting sex. Stay still, sister, Nocturne groaned as she squeezed her muscles, forcing even more to come out. Evening cried out in joy as she felt the warm and thick substance make contact with open folds. She relaxed her muscles so she could get as much as possible inside her. The heated liquid poured into her opening, sinking down towards her cervix where it started to pool. A shiver ran through Evening's body, and she moaned loudly as she was too filled with her brother's love. Then, with a neurotic splut, Nocturne suddenly sat down, smashing her lower lips firmly against her twins as she continued to share Chris's gift. Chris watched with wide eyes as Nocturne grounded herself against Evening's sex, holding her hips and sliding about. A wet slurping noise filled the air, along with heavy moans and grunts from the pair as they pushed their merhoods against one another. One of Evening's legs switched sporadically in the air, and her eyes rolled back into her head. Nocti, I feel so full. I'm going to. A moment later, Evening tensed as the warm liquid started to seep into her own room, scratching that itch that she desperately needed. It wasn't long before her whole body tensed and Evening's hips bucked up into her sister and she spasmed, forcing Nocturne to hold on tight as she continued to grind herself down upon her climaxing sister. A burst of mercum and jizz erupted up from the union, soaking their crotches and splashed down onto Evening's face. She gasped with her muzzle and drenched in her incense, as well as her brother's. Fighting her sister's convulsions for a few more seconds until she had to calm down, Nocturne rose, relieving the merhoods connected by a long strands of white creamy fluids. There, Nocturne concluded. Is that better, sister? Evening was still lost in her afterglow, and her only response was a few labored pants. That was fucking hot, Chris said with wet eyes, but all clear in his voice. His remembered fish to life, already stiff again from the sight. Nocturne gasped briefly. Oh no, sister, it appears the beast is back. Our brother's lust is not yet sated. It looks like we have more work to do. Having to force herself to lean up, Evening slowly swung her head in Chris's general direction, still not quite sure where he was in the lightly lit room. It cannot be, like, even cried playfully, but it just came out as a more tired panting. Naughty brother, you must. Before she could finish, she fell backward and moaned as the rush was still working her over. Nocturne hummed thoughtfully as she watched her collapse sister. Perhaps we should move this to the shower, sister. We can cleanse ourselves and get ready for round 2 all at once. Evening waved her hooves in the air as some kind of response Chris couldn't make out, but Nocturne seemed to understand. The twin helped her weakened sibling to stand, exposing both their backsides to Chris in the process. Letting him get an eyeful of the mirror hoods, both leaked in his essence, a trail of fluids dripping from both of their back ends as they both sauntered over to the door. It was an image that he quickly burnt to his head. Is this line just getting everything he loves about his every interaction, just burning into him? Like, I'm gonna remember this. Come, brother, Nocturne commanded. Chris got up right away and ran up to them, or ran as best as he could with his hand hard cock flopping around. He quickly caught up with him, but as soon as he did, as when they both flagged their tails high in the air and winked at them, and not with their eyes. This sound is gonna kill me, Chris muttered, but with his mouth, following his sisters out of the room regardless. You say that, Chris. You say that. Now, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. Muted afternoon. Okay, skipping time after the shower. Muted afternoon sunlight streamed through the window as Chris collapsed on the living room couch. It painted the room in a deep crimson, the leaves of the forest blocking out most of the brighter shades of color and sending dark shadows creeping across the wall. Putting his feet up on the coffee table, Chris sighed as his head fell against the back of the couch. It was a tired sigh, but it was also a contented sigh. He felt fresh and relaxed, his hair still damp from the shower and his muscles still loose from his sister's help. He felt better now that he had in days. The various stresses and worries he had been worrying about earlier all but an afterthought in his mind. He didn't know what the future held for him and his adopted family, but at the end of the day, he knew they'd all still be together, no matter what. He was pretty confident in this. Having gone to the next level with most of his siblings now, and everything turned out to be okay, he still didn't want his mother to know, but so far things were looking good. Chris was so comfortable that he didn't hear the footsteps coming down the path to the house until the doorknob began to jostle. Excuse me. It took a moment for the pony to get the key into the hole, but when they finally managed to, the door swung open. Winnie-chan, we're home. I hate myself saying that. Winnie-chan called out as she pranced in, and Blue Moon and Dawn followed behind her at a more relaxed pace, but both perked up upon seeing Chris laid on the couch, dropping her bag by the front door. Blue pushed past her sister and jumped into Chris's lap. She gave him a little smile as she wrapped her forelegs around his neck. Hello, brother, she purred, ready to pick up where we left off this morning. What? What about this morning? Oh, Blue here. Oh, Blue here is played back completely. Are my soft kissable lips so forgettable, brother? It's barely been a day, and are you forgotten about them? She sighed and shook her head. A smile grin. A small grin, spreading across her muzzle. Leaning forward, she brought her lips close to Chris's, her heated breath tickling his nose. More confused and aroused, Chris stared down at his younger sister as he racked his brain, trying to remember what she was talking about. After a moment, it came to him breakfast and the stealing of his sister's mango and the enthusiastic means by which she got some of it back. Blue, he said softly. Perhaps I should take a few minutes to refresh your memory, she whispered, her eyes slowly drifting shut. Hey, Dawn cried, snapping the two out of the moment. Why do you always get first dibs? All you two did was hang out with friends. I had to deal with customers all day. Pulling away from Chris, Blue gave her an annoyed look because I'm the alpha, that's why. What? No way, since when are you the alpha? Dawn growled. Since I was the first one to seduce him, that's when. Dawn stomped the floor with a foot. That's not how this works. This is how this works. Blue snapped back. I was the first one to make my claim on him by milking his cock dry, so that makes me the alpha. Horse apples, Dawn said with a second stop. We didn't agree to that, right, Mooney? Moonshot blinked as both students suddenly looked at her, shaking her head. She held her hooves up. Don't look at me. I don't want to be alpha. I just want to work on my mangoes and have Uni-chan use my throat and possess his personal cock sleeves. An awkward silence spread throughout the room as a small blush spread across her nose, and she grinned. I wrote a short story about it if you guys want to. Specs? Chris sighed, letting his head fall back against the couch again. He grunted as Blue Moon shifted about in his lap in order to get a better look at Dawn. You see, she says, I can be the alpha. She sniffed, getting back on track to what she considered was important. No, she didn't, Dawn growled. She said, and she didn't want to be the alpha. There's no way a twerp like you can be alpha. And why not, Blue said with a pout? I don't make a good alpha. You aren't old enough, Dawn said. The alpha's the one in charge, so they need to be the one with the most experience. I'm the oldest out of all of us, so that means I should be the alpha. So there, grinning the stuck out her tongue at Blue, her piercing flashing as she wiggled about it. That's probably true, that's true. Oh, really, then by that logic, shouldn't we be the alphas? Ahaha! Get surprised! All three mirrors yelped, and Dawn nearly bare her tongue as a sulking voice came from behind them. Looking about, they all stared with wide eyes as evening and nocturne glittered into the room from the dark cover of the ceiling. Fresh out of the shower, both of them still had damp manes and coats, and their pearl fur glowed in the red light of the setting sun. Nocturne, evening, Blue said in an audible stammer in her voice. What are you two doing here? I thought you had work today or something. Moving quickly, she slid out of Chris's lap and onto the floor, where she quickly moved to join Moondrop and both of whom were looking nervous. And why are you hiding in the rafters? Today was our day off, Moon Nocturne answered calmly. I thought we'd stay home and treat ourselves. Her gaze flicked to Chris as she said that, and she grinned. It has been a rather long week after all, and a mare needs some tender love and care every once in a while. Now, Evening said, as the pair began to circle the other three like sharks on their prey. What was this about who'd be alpha for what exactly? Nothing, Dawn said surely. It was just a game. Blue Moon finished quickly, Moondrop nodding beside her. A silly little game that we'd been playing. Yeah, that's it. Oh, come now. Oh, now. Nocturne said as she draped her wings over the two of them, doing the same with Dawn. There's no need to lie to us. We know what happened. You do? Moondrop squeaked. Nocturne nodded. Of course, your diary was rather informative, Specs. But there's no need to worry. We know that you were all seduced by our brother's insatiable lusty man, but you don't need to fear no anymore. We took care of it. Blue Moon whispered. Yes, and cackled. No need to think those fellow herd mates. We'll keep our stallion in line for you and keep his lust in check. My boy, her herd mates, Dawn stammered, her face turning a pale white as the shock of the situation settled in. We're in the herd with the blood drinkers? Oh, you got a problem? Okay, firstly, I'm gonna be mad. They're your sisters, and you got a problem with them drinking blood? I'm gonna be mad. I'm more mad if you... Wait, so the creepy twins are in our little secret too, Blue side. Our little herd keeps getting bigger every day. Just don't go telling Mom or Penumbra. I'm pretty sure those are the next chapters to come. I'm pretty sure Penumbra's next, then Mother, and we'll see what happens after that. I'm not sure if it's gonna be side quests, because there's something we all know. This author loves his interludes. Both Evening and Nocturne made a small zipping gesture with their wings over their lips before giving off a sly smile that showed off their fangs, causing Dawn to faint. Blue and Moondrop rushed to their sister's aid, fanning her with the rings while the twins both burst out into evil cackles. Chris just shook his head as the twins continued to tease and badger their younger sisters. He knew it was all in good fun, and Dawn would wake up shortly. Anything to do with blood always freaked her out, and she never could get along with the twins. He would have to have a one-on-one talk with Dawn about all this later, since this whole thing seemed to worry her the most. Absentmindedly, his hand drifted onwards, and he rubbed at his still aching balls. The twins' little trick still causing him to feel the effects even now. With a heavy sigh, he turned and looked out the closet window to him, even as his sisters continued to tease and bicker with one another in the background. Outside, the sun seemingly sunk below the horizon, allowing a deep royal purple to blanket the world as the stars and moon emerged for all to see. From the trees around hollow shades, bats took flight, the dark shapes twisting and turning through the air as if dancing in perfect harmony. And as always, for these fics, we get an achievement, and it is